Hello everybody and welcome back to Double Dip Draft! It is Season 5 after a long and arduous 6-ish months of waiting. As always, I am your host, Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers. Joining me for this Crown Division draft analysis, I have with me the illustrious Aurora.
Hello, what's up everybody? It's Aurora, coach of the Hoonsbrook Hunters, and today we're here to do the draft analysis of the Crown Division for Season 5.
Yes, Season 5, Crown Division. We had to say it back and forth a couple times to remember before we started recording, so we are doing Crown Division Season 5. It's been tweaked a bit, we try to iterate between seasons. We always like to up the ante, I'm never satisfied with a repeat performance, that goes for my placing and for the production quality of the season. So we're going to try branching out a little bit more on the YouTube side. We're going to try and keep it consistent. And of course, we did name the divisions this time. So you can catch Cabral and Whiteloaf doing the Armor Division, where Aurora and I are playing in the companion video to this one. But of course, this video is me and Aurora covering the 8 crazy motherfuckers that landed in the Crown Division. What are your thoughts on the Crown Division?
I feel both divisions honestly feel just stacked to the brim.
Yeah,
there's no freebies anymore, and also a bunch of new people. Always exciting to see.
Very exciting. I know that there were some murmurs from Crown Division where they were like, "Man, Armor Division looks crazy," and it's like, yeah, okay, it looks crazy, but when you really think about it, like thinking about Vincent's recent turnover, Spoupman, the Heerlen Hawluchas. He's looking like a real threat. Firebolt's always looking like a threat, and then of course Cemith and Scoots now sort of the two dominant spots in that division, pushing for the top placement. It's a crazy look over there. I remember Cemith was telling me, he was like, "Shit, man, I'm so front loaded. I have like 4 hard matches in a row right at the beginning," and it's like, yeah, that's like the second seed in that division saying that. So there's no freebies.
Yeah, I feel the bias probably comes from Armor Division having a lot of the people that were considered good back in the days of the SSL and the tournaments, whereas the Crown Divisions are sort of like the newcomers, the new risers, the people that have really proven themselves over the past draft leagues.
Yeah, it's an interesting storyline for sure, and I'm excited to see. I mean, I think that I guess this is just me as a competitor versus a spectator, but I'm really specifically excited to see what Crown Division gets, because I think there's going to be a lot of new fights, like new matchups and things we haven't seen. I know it's like only Cabral's second season, it's Nihlus' first season. We've got some old heads, we've got some newer heads. I'm excited to just see how it all shakes out in the grand scheme of things. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the individual player draft analysis. In this video, we're going to be going back to back alphabetical order, all 8 teams in the Crown Division, starting with the Dallas Duckletts, coached by Nihlus5. Shout outs to Nihlus. His first season in Double Dip, and he has got with him a built-in coach in the form of Bananas. I don't know what Bananas' experience is specifically in draft or in Showdown in general, but judging by the draft, which we'll get into in just a second, I think he's coming from a place of knowing what he's talking about. So I think they're going to be kind of a scary duo. They're a couple of gamers.
Yeah, it's always nice to just have one set person that you can always bounce back and forth with ideas from, as well as just do mock teams, do little tests.
Yeah.
See what works, see what doesn't.
Yeah, to me, I mean, the meta, back when we were playing in SSL, way back in 2016, 2017, I remember that the idea of mocking a team every week was kind of beyond my grasp. I don't think I did it a single time back then. But sort of as we've evolved and the meta has sort of shifted and changed, and not just the greater Pokemon community and the Sword and Shield OU or whatever, but just as we as players fighting amongst ourselves have changed and shifted, it kind of feels like having those mock teams and really trying to pick apart your opponent's brain becomes more and more important. So definitely having someone to bounce off of in the form of a personal coach or another competitor who you can, play back and forth with every week. Very, very helpful. Very important, I would say, to succeeding. So let's break down Nihlus' draft. The Dallas Duckletts in Tier 1 grabbed Rillaboom. In Tier 2 grabbed Zeraora. His two Tier 3s were Glastrier and Incineroar, Glastrier being a free agent trade. He originally had Skarmory in that slot. His Tier 4s are Doublade, Noivern, Vikavolt, and Galarian Weezing. And his Tier 5s are Hitmontop, Quagsire, and Xatu. Those are some good Pokemon. I mean, honestly, especially for someone who's on their first draft, there's a lot of lower tier pickups that I think are dope. I think Hitmontop is a really good pickup. I think Xatu and Quagsire both have really good utility. I actually think Vikavolt's very slept on. And Incineroar is kind of a personal favorite of mine. I saw some pretty good success with Incineroar last season, so I like the lineup. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of just individually like horrifying Pokemon here. Glastrier is like base 145 attacks. Doublade is also always just a pain in the ass, just because of a combo of its good typing and its stupid high defenses.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bases are being covered by Rillaboom's Grassy Surge, having that grassy terrain up. Because you will notice that a lot of the bulkier Pokemon that Nihlus has, in Glastrier, Incineroar, Doublade, usually lack recovery and are kind of forced to run lefties if they want to recover any health.
Mm-hmm.
But with Rillaboom's Grassy Surge, they're actually able to recover some HP even on the side.
Yeah, and I actually really like the synergy too, because the Grassy Surge, as we have been over 1,000 times last season in the analysis videos, if you were watching those, Grassy Surge does reduce the power of Earthquake. It I believe, halves the damage of an Earthquake. And so Zeraora, Incineroar, Doublade, and obviously some variants of Galarian Weezing, any non-levitation variant, are going to benefit a lot from that, either forcing their opponents to run high horsepower or drill run, less accurate, less powerful moves, or just minimizing damage from Earthquake altogether. I think that's really dope. I think that's really good synergy. I think that's very clever from a team building perspective.
Nihlus' bulk is definitely there, and it's very well supported with the Grassy Surge.
Yeah.
And to balance out the bulk analysis side, his team isn't the fastest. Zeraora and Noivern kind of carry the speed on their own backs.
Mm-hmm.
But all the bulky Pokemon that he has hit so hard on either the special or the physical side.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, to be honest, and there's a lot of Pokemon you really can't sleep on, especially in terms of setup. Rillaboom has access to Swords Dance and Grassy Glide to kind of cover that. He's not even got a bad speed. I mean, 85 is not the worst. It could do a little better, right? I think 91 would be the next sort of base speed checkpoint you'd want to clear. But Grassy Glide really does carry Rillaboom's speed, and being able to Swords Dance with Rillaboom, being able to especially bulk up with Zeraora, Incineroar can also bulk up. He's got a lot of sort of defensive stuff going on. And what I really like too is the double Intimidate between Incineroar and Hitmontop. You'll not necessarily always run Intimidate on Hitmontop, but I think that double Intimidate is really, really strong, especially with Incineroar's access to Parting Shot to kind of pivot around. You can just keep stuff weak, insanely weak. The reason that Incineroar sees a lot of success in VGC, or at least did see a lot of success in VGC, was because it could come out, intimidate both opposing Pokemon at the same time, and then you could Snarl and drop their special attack, and they'd all be at -1 flat across the board. So Incineroar kind of does fill, I think, a similar niche, or can fill a similar niche in draft, where you come in, intimidate, Parting Shot out into another Intimidator. That's literally -3 attack, -1 special attack in one turn. So, or in 2 turns, I guess, counting both. It's strong, man.
It can definitely cripple any opponent that's looking to take Nihlus down on the physical side, which, given that he has both Glastrier and Doublade already, is a challenge in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Even without the Intimidation, and with the Intimidation, it just becomes nigh impossible.
Yeah. Well, you do tend to find that, even though Doublade and Glastrier are very physically defensive Pokemon, their type weaknesses are going to generally be physical attackers, right? So Steel, Ground, Fighting. are majority made up of physical moves, and so even though they're already bulky, I think like supplementing that bulk with grassy terrain, intimidate, like parting shot, pivot, is awesome. I think that this is going to be almost like semi-stall in some matchups will be the way to play it, just because of how much damage reduction is going on, and that's not even, you know, accounting for anything like screens. Not that I think he really has access to a lot of good screens. I think, yeah, pretty much he's got Xatu as like a reliable screen setter. But honestly, I don't think he needs it. You know, like looking at this team, it's bulky enough, it's mobile enough, that I think defensively it can counter a lot.
Yeah, like especially if your opponent is just looking to hit you, this team is going to stand sturdy and hit back just twice as hard.
Yeah.
Right. I do feel that this team kind of struggles is with status.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree. Feel free to elaborate, though. I know I've been talking a lot, so go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah. The only cleric options, or the, well, status removal options that are on this team are aromatherapy from Galarian Wheezing, which means that aside from that and potentially running berries, when any of these Pokemon get status, that's there for good. If Duckletts gets Will-O-Wisp, its like offensive potential is suddenly completely crippled.
Yeah.
Incineroar can't get crippled, but like we said, it because of lack of recovery gets worn down, so if it gets toxic, it really doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Same for Glacier getting Will-O-Wisp, for Zeraora, Rillaboom getting Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, and really, you know, you might be thinking like, well, you know, Weezing does get Misty Surge, which is technically true, but it kind of clashes with Rillaboom's Grassy Surge. I don't think he's going to want to generally be running both terrains, unless, of course, there's some wacky strategy he wants to try, you know, in a given week. But generally, yeah, what Aurora said about the status and sort of the clerical ability of the team, you know, it's not completely gone. Like, you know, we're going to cover a team somewhat soon that has literally no options for status removal. This team at least has something it can do, but it's going to be like insanely telegraphed if it's going to be present at all. So it's not really, you know, it's the kind of team that, like, yeah, you're going to be playing a more defensive game, but Nihlus is going to have to watch out for Toxics and Will-O-Wisps and even stuff like Thunderwave on, you know, it's sort of like Thunderwave can also cripple, you know, Noivern and Incineroar and Rillaboom and things, so that might be a strat, you know. Versus Nihlus, you might just need to stack up on, you know, status. That might be the way to do it.
Yeah. Aside from that, Nihlus's hazard game is also not very strong. He only has Sticky Webs from Vigavolt and Toxic Spikes from Galarian Weezing. But on the flip side of that, his hazard removal is actually perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, and I think honestly it does benefit Nihlus, especially given, like, you know, Zeraora commonly in OU will run heavy-duty boots because it comes in and, you know, switches out a lot, and Incineroar, of course, is going to be pivoting in and out a lot, and, you know, it runs boots, especially, you know, given that it has like a 25% weakness to Stealth Rock. It's, you know, this is a team that would be forced to, like, run boots in OU, and so if ever Nihlus can avoid doing that or wants to sort of beef up, like, for example, like you said before, Incineroar, giving it, like, extra recovery and leftovers, or maybe, like, a Shuka Berry to get it through a specific turn or something, it's gonna be kind of a tall order if he's playing around Stealth Rock. So yeah, he's got a lot of aggressive defog. He's got Hitmontop to spin. He's got Xatu Magic Bounce to keep people from putting up hazards in the first place. I think that Nihlus, he's going to want to generally be playing a game with a clean field. I think that sort of the pivoty playstyle, both offensively and defensively, from this draft is going to want to be playing without hazards on its side, and I think he kind of acknowledges that as part of his team building and saying, well, you know what, I don't even have rocks, I don't have spikes, you know, like, maybe I could throw up T-spikes or a web, but, you know, it's not exactly like the primo strategy for this draft.
Yeah, it's also, like, not exactly like the webs came particularly much for a team where most Pokemon are like this slow and tend to prefer running bulkier sets anyway.
Yeah, the speed tiers don't really lend themselves to, you know, webs abuse anyway, so. But Vikavolt, I mean, you know, it's more than just a web setter. It's really, really good. There's actually like an agility throat spray set that I think is super slept on. It can volt switch around and it can actually run decent bulk. Believe it or not, Bug Electric kind of does eat up a lot of stuff. It's really nice for this team because it's ground immune and it's fighting resistant, which I think is really, really nice. So Vikavolt can potentially sort of defensively come in on stuff and slow volt switch out in certain situations, and it also gets access to like Energy Ball and things for opposing water ground types. You know, Nihlus was able to get Quagsire, but you know, Gastrodon and Seismitoad are both out there, so it's a good pickup, I think, and it complements the team really well.
Yeah, I feel in general, Nihlus' type coverage is fairly solid. The only thing he really struggles with is opposing rock types.
Yeah, rock, I mean, rock can be kind of hard to pick up reliable resists to, because a lot of stuff that's rock resistant is going to be weak to other more common offensive types like ground and water. So, yeah. I don't know, I feel like that's okay. You might be stretching like Doublade and Quagsire a bit thin defensively against rock, but I don't know that there's a lot in his division, at least, that is going to be sort of rock spamming. So I don't see that being too much of an issue, but it is, you know, it is there, right? It is a present sort of weakness of the draft.
Yeah, it's also definitely an upside that the resist in Doublades. Like, there are next to no good special rock type moves.
Yeah.
I think even any, like a Meteor Beam.
Power Gem? Power Gem's okay? That's what, like, Nihilgo runs? Or actually, I think Nihilgo starts running a Meteor Beam as well, right? With Power?
Yeah, like Meteor Beam is about the only, like, reliable rock move special that's run. Which means that, you know, Doublade can definitely take those hits.
Yeah, you can run Ancient Power if you're just a Lord, you know, if you want to really roll the dice, but... yeah, I think that Doublade for sure is a good pickup. And Quag too, and Quag being potentially unaware or water absorbed, depending on the matchup, is big. It's just a good thing to have, you know? I think Quagsire is so good. Quagsire is very swept on. Oh my god, I can't talk today. Quagsire is very slept on. I don't know if you've been watching any Joey or Envy lately. I know I'm kind of... Yeah, there's a bit of a tangent, a little bit of a faux pas to mention other creators, but they've been doing a series where they ladder using like teams consisting of Pokemon used by gym leaders in various games, right? So they did like all of the Kanto leaders, and they're working through Johto right now. And a lot of those teams, they pull Quagsire off of the gym leader castle teams that they had in Pokemon Stadium too, just because like a ton of people in that game had Quagsire, and it just fills teams really good. You know, especially when they're lacking in other types. So, shouts to Quagsire. I mean, unaware. Dope. Good stuff.
Yeah. It's just a good Pokemon, good set of abilities. Ground Water will never not be an ability type, or it's a Pokemon type when it's not really annoying to deal with.
Yeah. Water Ground, I believe, is only weak to grass, right?
Off the top of my head, yes.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. And having the electric immunity is just too good. Too good! You know, I think Water Ground is up there with like Steel Flying and Ground Flying as being some of the best types in the game. So.
Yeah, and Bug Steel too. Also,
Bug Steel, is really, really good. It's only with fire, I believe, so. Good stuff, yeah. I like the Nihlus draft. I think he's going to bring it far. You know, I really think, especially with, you know, supported by Bananas and sort of getting that one-on-one coaching. With a draft like this, I think that week to week, you could see Nihlus pull some upsets for sure. Because I think right now, the expectation for really any new player to double dip is that they might snag one or two, but ultimately don't tend to make it to playoffs over people who are really firmly established. But this is a draft that I could easily see round 2 semifinals, even grand finals of you know, double dip. I think it's a really strong draft.
Yeah, it's got all the, you know, standard bases covered, good cores, good switching, good type coverage, good just stat spread. And I think, you know, having a good draft is just the first step to, you know, making it far.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think Nihlus is someone to keep an eye on in the Crown Division. Why don't you tell me about someone else to keep an eye on in the Crown Division, Aurora?
How about the champion of the previous season, Scoots from the Dumblespoods army?
What a legend. So we actually originally thought he wasn't going to make it for this season. He went off to hike the Appalachian Trail a couple months ago, and that was really his sort of summer endeavor. And so originally, when we ended Season 4, he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to have to sit out for Season 5. I've got these prior engagements. I want to go do this hike. It's going to be a big thing. And it's obviously going to take a long time because he's walking over like 2,000 miles. So he's just doing his due. But when we were running the signups, he messaged me on Discord. He was like, hey, I actually will be back in town like roughly the time this is going to start. Can I sign up? And I was like, hell yes, you can sign up. So Dumblespoods Army, man. Shout out to Scoots. I love the name, by the way. Good team name. That one's a relic of SSL's past, and I know Aurora loves the name.
Oh, it's a great name. It totally doesn't make me wish to be dangling from the roof. But I think, and this is not confirmed, that really what Scoots has been up to is actually like hiking up the mountains and training with mountain monks to get even better at Pokemon somehow.
I hope not, because then we're fucked. Because he's just that good. I mean, okay, so to be fair, not to, big Scoots up too much. Last season was a bit touch and go for him until playoffs. He only squeaked in, I think, at the 4th seed of that division. Yeah, he was 4th seed in that division going into playoffs because he had to fight you, who was the top seed of the opposing division in round 1. And he was able to beat in a row Aurora and Vincent and then Cemith in Grands to take it all the way to first place. And it was, he looked pretty strong, although, again, he could have very easily... Frankly, he should have lost to Vincent in the semifinals.
Vincent made a miscalculation. He could have killed whatever Pokemon Scoots had out with Fiery Wrath.
Yeah.
But ended up clicking Air Slash instead, which is only 95% accurate, which missed. And then Scoots reverse swept.
Yeah, and it was really heart-wrenching to watch. But hey, that's just the way it happens sometimes in Pokemon. And to be fair, at least the silver lining for Vincent, he did go on to beat IDM in the bronze match, taking it to 3rd. But he could have just as easily either gotten 2nd or 1st last season. That one turn really changed the outcome of that entire season. So I think Scoots is the guy to watch this season to see if he can sort of clean up his regular season game and then take it to a strong, convincing playoffs. His draft looks pretty good. Not gonna lie, we were kind of front-loaded with some strong shit. Of course, picking up Landorus Therian is always good. That's an incredible Pokemon. Even when you know it's coming, a lot of counterplay is just sort of, throwing Ice Beam on something that doesn't kill it in one shot, It's a good Pokemon. It's one of those typings we literally just mentioned, ground flying. Immune to more than one type and defensive against a ton of very common types with Intimidate in the back and an insane stat spread. Actually, Aurora, I want you to tell the people at home what Pokemon outplace Landorus's attack stat in draft that are legal.
In draft that are legal, there are only 2 or 3?
3. There were 3.
3, right. It's Kartana.
Mm-hmm.
It's Haxorus.
Yes.
And it's...
Regigigas.
Right, Regigigas, which doesn't count.
Which does not count. So realistically, this thing is rocking the 3rd highest attack stat that you can draft. And it's just amazing at everything. I mean, anyone who's played OU in the past 10 years, literally 10 years, will know that Lando T can dual dance, it can set up and remove hazards, it can spread status, it can U-turn pivot, it can play offensively, it can play defensively, it can, suicide lead with Rock's Explosion, it can run Bandit or Scarf, or it's just everything. you know?
Yeah.
Like
Prepping for this thing is going to be a nightmare just because there's so many different options, so many different known good ways to run this thing.
compared to even something like Mew, which is literally base 100 across the board and can learn essentially any move, I think Lando has more in terms of like viable sets than Mew has. Maybe not in draft, because Mew literally can sort of build around the opponent every week, but I mean, so can Lando, really. I mean, shoot, you know, if you need like a defensive bulky pivot, Lando can do it. If you need an offensive sweeper, Lando can do it. If you're like, man, I'm lacking some speed, I should throw a scarf on something strong, Lando can do it. I mean,
man, I'm struggling to get rocks up. Lando can do it.
Lando can do it. I'm struggling to get rocks off the field. Lando can do it.
Fucking this thing gets defucked too, because why wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't it? It's crazy, Lando T. We can literally spend the next hour of this video just talking about how good of a pickup Lando T is. And I cannot believe, frankly, that it generally goes undrafted. I know that people want to use more exciting things in draft, right? Like, you see all those crazy tier 1s, and you're like, shoot, man, I want to use, like, Celestial or whatever, but Lando, I mean, Lando is all reliable. You know, SpongeBob holding the spatula, it says all reliable? That's what Lando is.
Yeah, fucking. It is just kind of like, you know, picking Lando in draft kind of feels like you can have anything for breakfast and you pick oatmeal.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
I mean, it's a sturdy meal, but it's not fun.
It's a sturdy meal. It's good. It's known to be good. People will acknowledge that it's good, but you know, there's more exciting options out there.
Yeah. So, Lando T. I think is an incredible pickup and looks really, really good on Scoots' draft. And his draft from there it's full of strong stuff. I mean, his tier 2 is Tapu Fini, tier 3s are Chandelure and Weavile, his tier 4s are Exploud, Heracross, and Metagross, and Xurkitree, excuse me. And his tier 5s are Alolan Exeggutor, Garbodor, and Lycanroc Midnight. It's a good draft, Aurora. Tell me something about this draft. Just anything. Hit me with some knowledge.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I'm not really a fan of with this draft, and that's sort of the speed tiers that we're looking at. It's Weavile is fast to kind of run a lot of things, and then we're immediately dropping to Lando T being the next fastest thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't even break base 100, which is a really important speed tier to, you know, overcome generally.
Yeah, so I feel like in a lot of cases, Scoots' team will be relying on bulk, and a lot of the Pokemon that are relying on that bulk sort of have okay-ish to middling bulk.
Yeah, I do think he had some good pickups. Like, I think Fini can be pretty bulky, but it doesn't have like reliable recovery. I think Garbodor is pretty underrated in terms of a defensive sort of wall-ish Pokemon, especially, you know, throw like a Rocky Helmet on it, give it Aftermath, you know, it'll just boom on something, you know, that's causing you trouble. But generally, yeah, it looks like a lot of Scoots' Pokemon, like Chandelure, Weavile, Exploud, Heracross, really, like Lycanroc even, are mostly here to hit things hard, and aren't so much here to live hits. Although I don't think any of those are particularly frail, except maybe Weavile. They're still not, like, reliably soaking a lot of hits, you know?
Yeah, stuff like Chandelure, Exploud, Heracross, Lycanroc, it can usually live a hit, but it'll probably drop on the second.
Yeah.
If it's like a decently powered neutral hit.
Yeah. I think that really week to week what this draft kind of screams to me is that he's gonna have a Pokemon or two Pokemon that are just like, oh, my game plan is like endgame Metagross or endgame Xurkitree or, you know, endgame like Lycanroc in a weird, you know, scenario. But like, he's really gonna have to like mold around specific Pokemon, because a lot of these other Pokemon, besides of course Lando T, have very sort of pronounced exploitable weaknesses, even in draft where, you know, your options are more limited. You know, I think a lot of people can find a way around like Exploud or Heracross, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There is like generally good coverage going around, there's generally good offense going around. And Spood will have to definitely leverage that very hard to sort of not give his opponent the breathing room. Because I feel if something gets set up just like a bit, it can run through this team quite fast.
Yeah. Also, it's Scoots. That's not Spood's draft. You silly
It's
goof.
it's Scoot's running Spood's draft.
Yeah. No, I agree with you though. I do think like this team can kind of get bowled over by certain offensive. Like I think it does look pretty weak to certain setup sweeps. Although I think Metagross, Weavile, Scarf Chandelure potentially can sort of account for and revenge kill really aggressive setup sweepers. I think that in the game plan where Scoots is kind of getting defensively outplayed, it looks pretty rough for this draft.
Yeah, I feel like the best course of action Spood will have in games where he's on the back foot is sort of getting out Landorus, getting that Intimidate off, forcing the opponent to switch, and then you turning into your appropriate offensive Pokemon to deal with whatever the opponent switches into.
Yeah. You said Spood again. Oh,
I can't look. I'm
do we
looking
look
at
the same to you? Is that what you mean to say?
I'm looking at the team name. It says Spood, so I keep saying Spood.
Spood's Army. Yeah.
How do we know this isn't just your alt account?
It's I wish, dude. Scoots beats my ass every time we play. I wish this was my alt. Shoot, I wish I had that record. I mean, he right now I think he literally has the #1 CCS in this league. His coach competitive
like
score.
he managed to outdo like even IDM, which is quite a feat.
Yeah, IDM was very firmly #1 in coach competitive score until just last season, until playoffs last season even, where Scoots was able to just clinch it. But yeah, I mean, a couple other just random notes about this team. We were talking about like Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini kind of has, of all the terrains you could abuse on a team, I think that Misty Terrain is pretty weak relatively. I think we talked about this even in last season's draft analysis. I don't remember who grabbed Fini last time, but I do remember sort of going on a tangent about how Fini is, I think, the weakest of the 4 Tapus and definitely has the weakest of the 4 terrains because it doesn't really give you strong boosts. It kind of gives a blanket to every single Pokemon, including your opponent's Pokemon, that you can't really offensively abuse or build around. And especially on a team like this, like what we were saying before, where most of these Pokemon are going to die in 2 hits, I don't think that evading status is going to be like a #1 game plan for Scoots. So, yeah, I mean, Tapu Fini is still a great Pokemon. It's a good bulky water. It can Calm Mind. It can, right now in OU it runs a lot of switcheroo, so it'll give people like Scarfs and shit. And you can run it offensively. I think that you've done that before to good success. So.
Well, actually, no. I ran Specs Fini against IDM at one point and missed 3 separate Hydro Pumps.
Ah, well, never mind then. Tapu Fini sucks. Don't recommend it. If you're gonna run Tapu Fini, you should run Surf. That's what you should do.
Yeah. You want me to tell you who had Tapu Fini last season?
Who had Tapu Fini last season?
It was Scoots as well.
It was Scoots. Okay, I felt like that might have been the case, but I didn't want to say it. Yeah. Fini is still a good Pokemon, and definitely a good tier 2, but just not my favorite Tapu. Other Pokemon on this team, I mean, honestly, Chandelure is like a staple of draft. Someone grabs it every season because it's amazing, and even
I think it's one of the highest failures we have at the moment.
Yeah, it's a good dude. I mean, honestly, like between Infiltrator, Flash Fire, good Scarf Abuse, like just it's a good Pokemon. I like Chandelure. Weavile has been seeing a lot of prominence in OU lately as well. As just kind of a Pokemon that's really fast and can hit a lot of present threats. It can sort of take care of like Dragapults and other things. I feel like it's hard for me to name them off the top of my head, but every time I make a team and I go into OU, I just get my ass beat by Weavile no matter what it is. So,
It's just a very strong offensive typing for as fast as it is and for how hard it hits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But one last note I'll make about this team is also that Fini is kind of like very necessary almost every single week, given that the only other water resist Scoots has is a Alolan Executor.
Yeah, not famed for being an especially strong Pokemon. So that's a thing to consider.
Yeah, especially given that most Pokemon that have water coverage will usually also have Ice Beam in the back somewhere.
Yeah, that is very true. So, yeah, Fini, shoot. I think that the guy with... Yeah, Kyurem is in this division too. That's Cabral's, which we'll get to, I think, next, actually. Or no, I think he's like 1 or 2 away. Or no, he's next.
I do feel like also actually making another last note, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
We noted that Nihlus only has a single cleric user. Scoot actually has none.
Literally,
there's only a Alolan Executor to use Wish.
Yeah. Well, you can still get less than that, but yeah, in terms of viable clerics, they're pretty light in this division, and definitely Scoots' draft is, and no exception. So, literally no status removal and very little in the way of recovery for teammates.
So Tapu Fini's like Mystery Terrain might actually like end up playing a key role in preventing that crippling status.
It may be, could definitely be the case. I know we've been kind of smack talking this team a bit for the recent conversation, but I do think it's generally a pretty good draft. I mean, honestly, if anything or if nothing else, right? Lando T is on it, and Lando T wins games. So I expect that Scoots will see definitely the success that he's used to, and maybe a little more with this draft.
Definitely, especially with just like good all-around Pokemon backing it up. Chandelure is just known to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Metagross, I'm not sure how the fuck we made that a tier 4 Pokemon. I think we should fix that.
I don't know. I like Metagross. I mean, I think it's really good, but it gets counterplayed pretty hard. So you take it or leave it. Honestly, what I'm really scared of in his tier 4s is Xurkitree. Because that's
Xurkitree also being like honestly, Heracross, Metagross, and Xurkitree, all three of those those are like premier tier 4 picks.
Yeah, they're all really, really strong. So Scoot's got it. He also had, I think, another really strong tier 4 that he traded away during the free agent trading period. He traded away his Slurpuff for Exploud, which we have debated the merits of that swap, and I think that it's really sort of a preference thing. But hey, Exploud's a good Pokemon. I mean, it's okay. I should say. I shouldn't say it's a good Pokemon, but Spec Scrappy Boomburst. I mean, it does a lot of damage to pretty much anything. So that's what it's for.
That's what it's for. That's what it'll do.
Yeah.
Doesn't do all that much else. Doesn't need to do all that much else.
That's true. I mean, some Pokemon. I mean, what does Dracovish do besides click Fishious Rend? It's still an incredible Pokemon.
Yeah, sometimes you just have that niche that you fill, and that's really all you need.
Yeah. But I think that's all I feel like saying about Scoots, unless you have any other notes.
I think that about does it.
Well then, I think we should scoot on over to our third competitor in the Crown Division of Double Dip Draft Season 5. We have got the Slinging Aegislashers Cabral 095 returning for now his second season of Double Dip. Cabral had an interesting, a noteworthy performance last season. I think he overperformed to most people's expectations, going 3-4 on his first season, which I think is actually quite good. I mean, I've had seasons where I go 3-4, and I've been here for a long time, so I think there's no shame in a 3-4 season, and his playoffs eligibility really came down to sort of a weird three-way tie situation. He was kind of banking on I believe it was Remedy needed to beat Jason in Week 7 for Cabral to advance to playoffs. It's really, when you get to that point, sometimes that's just how it is.
Yeah, it was kind of like a weird situation where, like you said, there was one slot left, basically, and 3 eligible people, depending on the exact way that the matches played out.
Yeah. And things did not come up Cabral style, unfortunately. I believe who came in for it was Jason. Jason ended up.
Jason.
Yeah. So, and we miss Jason. We wish Jason was playing this season. Unfortunately, he had to cancel, or rather, he didn't sign up thinking that he was going to have prior engagements, and then didn't. So he kind of just missed the sign-up period, which sucks. But
yeah, Jason wishes he could play this season.
Oh, Jason does wish he could play this season, man. He just wants to get his ass beat by me for a third time in a row. That's what he wants. But you know what? We're talking about Cabral, not Jason. Cabral, I think, is a real sort of underdog pick that I could see just sliding into playoffs. I really think that if this division's not careful, Cabral could sneak in there as high as like 3rd or 2nd, to be honest with you.
I feel you could definitely see sort of like the rise in Cabral's understanding and like game-oriented mindsets from like the beginning of last season towards the end of last season.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think, he started off a little bit rocky. He could have even gone 4-3 last season, but I think he choked something to Vincent, I think, was like a very winnable match, or it came down to like one-on-one, and like I believe that his match versus you could have gone different if he didn't last minute drop close combat on his Hitmontop for Triple Axel, which was a move he never got to use.
Yeah. Also just like a few misplays like left and right, but you learn from mistakes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like, what the whole point of what I'm saying is, I think Cabral shows a ton of potential for somebody who's only entering his second season of Double Dip. So don't sleep on Cabral at all, especially because he's got a pretty interesting draft that I would like to talk about, which is the coveted, the enshrined into history by Cemith in Season 4, the Hail draft, in not full swing necessarily, but he's definitely leaned into it with his Ninetales and Sandslash. So we'll go ahead and break down the entire list of Pokemon, and then we're probably going to talk about Hail for 10 minutes, and then we'll talk about the rest of his draft. So his Tier 1 is Zygarde 50%. You're not allowed to run Power Construct on Zygarde in this league. That is one of our complex bans, so it's going to be stuck using Aura Break, which is a, not good ability, but,
useless ability.
You've got Zygarde in Tier 1, you've got Kyurem as his Tier 2, you've got Mimikyu and Alolan Ninetales as his Tier 3s, his Tier 4s are Gastrodon, Crocodile, Sylveon, and Vaporeon, and his Tier 5s are Magmortar, Miltank, and Alolan Sandslash. So, yeah, really, he's got a similar approach. Hail is different to Rain in that it does not power up Ice-type moves the way that Rain powers up Water-type moves, which is dumb, but, that's fine, it's not like every weather needs to be good.
Yeah, every weather sort of has, like, its weird quirks. For, like, Water, it ups the power of Water-type moves, but it doesn't necessarily make its own moves more accurate, whereas Hail makes Blizzard more accurate, but doesn't make it more powerful.
Yeah.
Sun just... it kind of like weirdly like works against itself in a weird way, like half the time.
Sun is a very self-defeating weather, yeah.
Yeah, most of the like abusers of Sun tend to be grass types with Chlorophyll, but Sun powers up fire type moves, which they're weak to.
Yeah, it's not great. And it also it has the power of water type moves, which is a good thing for a weather to do. But again, it doesn't really synergize with grass types who already resist them, so it's weird that Sun abusers are grass types instead of fire types. I don't really think most fire types really do benefit besides just the, fire type move boost, right? Which is good, but it's not really like a Pokemon synergizing as much as it is just like stronger coverage, in my opinion, on its good stuff, right? Because, you think like, okay, Venusaur in Sun is kind of, I think, the premier Sun sweeper, because it gets Chlorophyll and it gets access to Growth, which in Sun, instead of boosting both attack stats by 1, boosts them both by 2. So Venusaur comes in, gets +2, is super fast because of Chlorophyll, and it can drop Weather Balls that are fire type. And it's just a great Pokemon. But again, takes less damage from water types, who cares? Takes more damage from fire types, that's bad. So, I don't know. Sun is, I think that it's fair to say, I think this is a pretty objective take on the weather war, that right now, Rain and Sand are both very good. I think Rain is definitely better than Sand, but it's like Rain, then Sand, then a big fucking gap, and then it's Hail and Sun in either order, really. You don't see either of them all that often in OU. I think you see Sun a bit more than Hail. But, again, Sun, it's a bit more gimmicky. Torkoal is actually a good Pokemon, so, at least he has that going for it. But it's not like Alolan Ninetales is a bad Pokemon. Ice gets Aurora Veil, which is really, really strong, but you have to have Hail up to do it. So really, you have to have a screen setter that sets Hail, and then you also have to decide whether you want to elongate your screen turns or your Hail turns. So you're still making concessions even when you have the best case scenario in Alolan Ninetales. So Hail.
I think definitely the thing that puts Rain over the top is just the fact that Pelipper can come in and just U-turn out immediately.
Yeah.
No other weather setter can pivot like that.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, Pelipper can not only pivot, but also, can find success with a handful of different items. Generally, you're going to see Damp Rock, but, you know, it's not necessarily uncommon to see Specs or Scarf or, you know, Leftovers or, you know, whatever, right? And, like, Pelipper can be pretty defensive, can be actually kind of hard to break through without electric coverage. I don't know. I mean, just Rain is so good. And Sand is good, too. Sand is actually really strong right now with Tyranitar and, you know, you've got, like, Dracozolt and Dracovish, if it weren't banned. Jesus. So, you know, Santa's got some very strong abusers and can actually, you know, do stuff. And especially, I think Sand giving these special defense buff to rock types is really good. I mean, it makes Tyranitar insanely specially bulky when its special defense isn't that good. So, it's just, yeah.
And also, I feel that the boon, a big boon to Sandstorm is also just the fact that there are 3 separate types that are immune to like the damage over time effect, both ground, rock, and steel types. Mm-hmm. Whereas the only thing that resists hail is ice types.
Yeah, which is
so your own team, aside from the abusers, tend to also like suffer.
Yeah, so you'll see almost like a monotype approach to you know, to hail, because you'll have to see, you know, in terms of hail abusers, I can really only think of like Arctozolt, Arctovish, Alolan Sandslash, Beartick.
Must be Beartick.
Well, Beartick also gets Swift Swim, so it's honestly better on Rain, because at least then it doesn't take as much damage from like fire type moves. So, what can you say about it? But all of that smack talk on Hail aside, Hail did perform very, very well last season. Cemith drafted a pretty exclusively Hail-focused draft. He had, I think, 2 setters and 2 abusers, and shoot, he took Hail all the way to Grand Finals. He did really, really well. Now, I won't necessarily say that every week was decided by his access to Hail. I think it had a lot to do with other components of his draft that were really strong, like Ditto and what was his tier 1? I don't even remember. It was
I don't have a clue.
I don't know. Whatever his tier 1 was, you know, helped him out a lot. So, but he definitely found a way to use Hail effectively, and I think that Cabral is kind of chomping at the bit there, saying, look, I'm going to use Alolan Ninetales, I'm going to use Alolan Sandslash, I'm going to set that Hail, I'm going to get my Slush Rusher in, and I'm going to try and take a couple games that way. Hail, you know, it's a good enough weather. I mean, all weather, I think, can help you in draft, where you really need to take whatever you can get in terms of like passive buffs to your team that hurt the opposing team. So to that effect, I think that Alolan Sandslash might be able to single-handedly beat certain drafts under the right conditions. And of course, Kyurem not taking hail damage is kind of nice on those like sub-roost bulky sets. Especially given that Kyurem has infamously gotten access to Freeze Dry, or has had access to Freeze Dry, which makes it super duper good in OU right now, since it beats things that would normally counter an Ice type attacking, especially offensively, like Toxapex. So, yeah, I think that in terms of Ice abuse, you know, Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Sandslash, Kyurem, they can do it.
Yeah, I definitely like what we're seeing here with just like the one setter, the one abuser, because it's something we see spread across like a couple of other teams as well.
Yeah,
where, you know, they're taking the possibility of abusing weather, putting it in their back pocket, but not going, you know, all chips on the table.
Yeah. I think we're really going to have to see how that pans out, because a lot of different people are taking the, like, sort of individual weather core approach. There was actually such a scramble for Sand this season that, like, poor Mass, he had to draft a Hippopotas. He did end up trading it away for free agent, but man, just I know that he was just like, shit, because he had Excadrill and he needed a Sand setter, but he decided to swap them both out. Because he just was not satisfied with picking up Hippopotas. But, you know, Gigalith went to me. Tyranitar, I think, went to no, not Firebolt. Firebolt got Hippowdon. So Tyranitar, I don't know. Someone got Tyranitar. So a lot of people are running.
Black Captain got it.
Black Captain, yeah. So, you know, all the Sand Takers were just straight up gone. So, yeah. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it was really funny, because usually you have like round one person picks Excadrill, and people just sort of like consent yeah, that person's going sand.
Yeah.
And now we have 3 separate teams with sand and not a single Excadrill to be seen.
Yeah, it's honestly fucking insane. But I just think it's funny, and at least investing in Hail kind of makes you a little more low profile, right? People aren't as likely to want to snipe Hail setters, right? Like, no one's gonna get that mad that Vanillux got taken. But, wow, it was a mad dash for Sam this season. Anyway, weather aside...
Weather aside, there's a whole, 8 other Pokemon in this team we have to talk about.
Right, let's go ahead and discuss this draft. So, I think that Zygarde is a really, really good Tier 1. That thing has a lot of stuff that makes it a strong defensive threat. Specifically, it has access to Coil, and it has access to Glare, and of course it has access to Substitute. So Zygarde can set up defensively, it can Coil, it can paralyze opposing Pokemon with full accuracy. And something else that's randomly really nice about Zygarde is that it gets Extreme Speed, which it can utilize quite well. And even when it's not running Extreme Speed, it still has base 95 speed, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's the same as like Kyurem or Tapu Lele, so it's a relatively strong speed tier to hit or meet,
Yeah. Then you have sort of like the cherry on top of everything, which is just the absolutely dummy busted move that is 1,000 arrows.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about 1,000 arrows. 1,000 arrows, for those uninitiated, is a move that will hit. It's a ground type move that hits anything, including things that are immune to it, like flying types and levitators. So, forget Smackdown Landorus. You've got Zygarde that can just click 1,000 arrows and hit basically anything in the game for neutral damage or super effective damage.
Yeah. Well, the first hit, usually it takes flying types as a resist, or it takes levitators as a resist. And then after it knocks them down, the hit after that will usually be neutral or super effective.
That's true. Yeah, that's worth mentioning. But still, I mean, really, really strong Pokemon. Zygarde actually did get banned from OU a little while ago. I think at the beginning of Crown Tundra meta, it hung around for like a month or two, a bit longer than the other insta-bans like Genesect and Landorus Incarnate, but Zygarde did hang around for just a little bit longer, and when it was in OU, it was a menace. I mean, that thing was incredible. So I'm excited to see it get some representation in draft. It did get drafted last season by Nick, but unfortunately it didn't really get to shine a lot. It did a couple of good things, but ultimately, Zygarde I don't think showed off its true potential. I think it was actually outperformed by Zygarde 10% that season.
Yeah,
which, was very strong.
Yeah, looking at Zygarde's performance of last season, they got a whopping 2 kills.
Yeah, so... But I'm excited for Cabral to show the people why Zygarde matters. And Kyurem as well is a Pokemon that can just demolish teams. If you don't have a Kyurem counter, which are few and far between, then Kyurem wins. I mean, that's pretty much it, especially, again, like I said, with access to Freeze Dry. Demolishing teams. Mimikyu, great Pokemon. It's one of the few Pokemon I've personally drafted more than once just because I love it. The mascot, you already know. Disguise got nerfed in Gen 8, but it's still really, really good. You can put yourself in front of a setup sweeper, and if they don't have a multi-hit move, then, they get forced out. And what's really nice about Mimikyu is that it's got pretty decent attack, and it has access to Play Rough and Shadow Sneak and Shadow Claw and all these things. So, does Mimikyu run Poltergeist? Does it get Poltergeist? I wonder. That's a good thing to look at.
I think it does get Poltergeist.
Well,
I want to say it does.
Even besides the point, what's really cool about Mimikyu is that, assuming, let's say you've got a Garchomp set up, right? It's Swords Danced, it's Scale Shot up to, +2, so it's just running through your team. Mimikyu comes out. It's immune to Scale Shot, which is a multi-hit, so he has to use, Earthquake or something. Earthquake breaks the Sash, or rather the Disguise, and then Mimikyu can Play Rough and then Shadow Sneak right after, if Play Rough somehow doesn't kill at -2, because that's Scale Shot, But that's what I'm saying. If there is a Pokemon where it can live one hit from Mimikyu, it has to live one hit plus Shadow Sneak, or has to switch out. And either way, it's really tough to. It's like one of those Pokemon that you really have to, when you're making your game plan for a fight in a given week, you have to be like, okay, once I get rid of Mimikyu Disguise, then this thing can happen. But Mimikyu is just a needle in the side of anybody who wants to set up sweep, really. It's similar almost to Ditto in that way, where you're like, it discourages people from investing in that sort of early mid game just to see what they can get, because it'll immediately stop it.
Yeah, and I actually feel that's one of the like very interesting little like interactions that's on this team, is having Hill kind of discourages sash sets, given that Hill will usually break the sash.
Right.
So Mimikyu can sort of function like it has a pseudo sash, because it can just take a hit, guaranteed, and counterattack.
Right. And Mimikyu does it quite well. And, you know, Mimikyu, even besides just stopping offense in its tracks, you know, if you don't necessarily have a setup sweeper that you're worried about, you can still find success with Mimikyu by throwing it in front of something and either paralyzing or burning it, since it has access to Thunder Wave and Will-O-Wisp, or you can Trick Room and, you know, make slower things go fast. It's not necessarily going to be that helpful in this draft specifically, but, you know, it's an option, right? In the worst case scenario, you do have the ability to turn speed inverted, and you're guaranteed to be able to do it in most situations because of the disguise. So, great Pokemon, Mimikyu is. Ghost Fairy, dope typing also. That's a very, very good type.
It's a very, very good typing. It's kind of unfortunate that Cabral's team isn't the team that makes like the best use out of Trick Room, outside of trying to pull some room server shenanigans.
Yeah, which, you know, you could do that. Could do that. I don't know. I feel like it could be pulled off like once or twice, right? Like, we're going to get to Vaporeon soon, but Vaporeon, I think, like, running min speed will clear a lot of common Pokemon, and that thing is really strong. I mean, deceptively hits quite hard, so... and Sylveon, too, is even slower and hits even harder, so... Or I guess hits... We had this discussion already. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Gastrodon is dope. It's another water ground type, but this one is better just because it's, I don't know, it's just better. I guess they both have access to recover, but I think that Gastrodon's just a bit more defensive. It also has sticky hold, so in situations where you're not necessarily worried about running water absorb, you can run sticky hold and be immune to knock, which is really, well, you know, not immune to knock, but you're not going to be losing your item to knock, so you're actually going to be able to guarantee hold your leftovers constantly, or, you know, your Rindo Berry or whatever you need to keep. And Gastrodon just does really good. Honestly, I think that Gastrodon is always a solid pickup. I honestly, like I said before, any water ground is a great pickup. Swampert's amazing, Gastrodon's amazing, Quagsire's amazing, Whiscash. Well,
Whiscash is the odd duck out.
It's the odd one out, yes. It is a water ground type that kind of sucks. But did you know that Whiscash gets Dragon Dance?
I did. And it's still bad because it's just too slow.
It's still bad. But, you know, at least it has something. But, you know, water ground, good typing. Yeah. Gastrodon, I think, does quite well.
Yeah. We've seen Crocodile do amazing last season.
Yeah, Crocodile is strong. I mean, honestly, both of its sets, like Intimidate and Moxie, are both just so good.
Yeah, or you can put on your Clownos and run Anger Point.
Yeah, if you're a dumbass, you could do that. If you're trying to get one of those like Wheel to Needle type videos and be like, I'd sweep OU ladder with Anger Point Crocodile. Whatever. Sylveon and Vaporeon. So he's got two of the evolutions. He did use Vaporeon last season to, I think, very good effect, actually. That thing took hits like a champion, you know?
Yeah, and actually, like, very unusually, he ran Hydration Vaporeon a lot last season, given that he had Pelipper.
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, it was really good.
He was very good at just sort of looking at his opponent, realizing, my opponent uses little to no water, I don't need to run Water Absorb, I can run Hydration instead and make sure that this thing doesn't get toxic or paralyzed or burned or whatever.
I mean, Hydration Rest is honestly incredible. It kind of harkens back to Manaphy, you know? Like, Manaphy used to, like, Tail Glow and then just rest, you know? And it would be in rain and it would Hydration wake up immediately, and it's just so good. So, I think that, yeah, he really showed off how good Hydration Vaporeon can be. And Sylveon is a bruiser. This Pokemon is also similarly bulky, but it also gets access to Pixelate Hyper Voice, which is really strong. I mean, it's really, really strong. And it can go through sub, which is always important.
Yeah, it turns Hyper Voice into a 108 base power Fairy type move, which then still gets boosted by Stab.
Yeah. And it's good. It's very, very strong. So, I'm excited to see Sylveon and Vaporeon do some work, Evolution. Brothers in action, I know it. Magmortar, it is a fire type, which is good to have, I guess, It's alright. Magmortar has a decent move pool. I feel like, Magmortar and Electivire both kind of get access to a lot of good coverage, but aside from that, kind of just generally not that strong.
Yeah, a lot of Pokemon that originate from first generation, for some reason, they could usually learn like most TMs that were in the game.
Yeah.
So they have like access to a lot of just weird moves. Like Magmortar can use Thunderbolts. It gets like a bunch of other weird shit.
Yeah. But it's alright. I think it does fill a niche in this team that's not that, I think it's pretty reasonable to want filled. Miltank is a good Pokemon. It's actually quite good in draft. Like you were saying, it can essentially get a second immunity, it can get extra resists, or it can get Scrappy to get its own hits off on Ghost type. So I could honestly see each of those three abilities coming depending on the week. Especially, I think it synergizes really well with Gastrodon, where if you got Sap Sipper, Miltank, and Gastrodon, it's like it's kind of hard to break through that core. They don't have really overlapping weaknesses.
Yeah, it gives you. Like grass immunity is something that doesn't exist by default, given that no one typing is immune to it.
Mm-hmm.
So having things that can get abilities that make you immune to shit, always good.
Yeah, always good. So I think Miltank is a good pickup, and even without the Sap Sipper angle, it's a good cleric. It can take hits pretty well. It can recover with Milk Drink. So it's a good Pokemon. I think it's a really good Pokemon. And Alolan Sandslash just abuses Hail, goes super fast, swords dances, and kills things. Or you could run Slush Rush if you're a real degenerate.
You mean...
Snowcloak, yeah. My B, yeah. I was wrong.
Who would run one of the, Cloak or Veil abilities in Weather?
You know. I think you know.
Yeah. I do know. That's the sad thing. I did actually, this is something we didn't know the previous time, but now that I'm looking at it, there are no ground resists or immunities at all.
Oof. You're right. That is interesting. So that's never good in a draft.
Yeah. There are two weaknesses, which one of them is Magmortar, the other one is Sandslash. So that's not the worst, but everything else gets hit neutrally.
Yeah, which is not great.
Yeah, that's something to watch out for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, aside from that, his hazard removal is terrible. It's only spin on Alolan Sandslash, which you can potentially do, but
yeah, that's not reliable. You can basically count on the turn that you rapid spin with Alolan Sandslash.
Yeah.
If the opponent even has a decently offensive Pokemon out, it's dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But, at least he can get up rocks and spikes and things. He's not totally hopeless on that front. And you know what I like about this draft is that it's the first one that we've seen so far that actually has a really good clerical approach.
Fucking all, three very good cleric options. Ninetales could do it as well. If it's really necessary, I guess.
We did see Vaporeon Wish passing last season too, to pretty good effect, and I think Sylveon can do it as well, depending on the matchup. So
yeah, Sylveon has less HP, but it's still good for it.
Yeah, still not bad because it's relatively bulky. So as long as it can take that hit, at least you're getting something.
Yeah, I think also for this team, this is probably the best set of priority moves we've seen in the team thus far.
Yeah,
Shadow Sneak from Mimikyu being very good.
Yeah.
Sandslash getting Ice Shards.
Really good. And then
Easy Speed from Zygarde.
Oof.
Yeah. And don't underestimate, Magmortar has 95 base physical attack. It's Mach Punch hurts.
Yeah. And what's interesting too about this team is that since it is Hail focused and it does have access to Alolan Ninetales, you're probably going to see Aurora Veil happening more often than not. I think that it's going to be a big component, and I think that is going to help sort of shore up, like we were talking about earlier, the lack of resistance to ground. It's going to be nice,
Yeah, you can sort of use Lap 2 to patch it up.
Yeah. Shoot, we are already at an hour of recording. We should probably pick it up a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I think this probably is good enough for Cabral. You know, after like whining about weather for like half an hour.
I know. We just we're on that tangent. We'll try and keep it a little faster. We'll hit the notes, but we're getting too into talking.
So moving on to the next team, it's going to be the Heerlen Hawluchas as coached by Spoupman.
That guy had a tragic ender last season. Of course, losing to Scoots on a 5% air slash miss, which itself was ultimately a misplay, but still sucks, right? Like, it's not, he made the worst play between the two and only would have gotten punished 1 in 20 times, but that's the world we live in, where it was that one time. So.
There's 19 other timelines where it's him in playoffs, but
like grand
sadly,
finals. So I think he's looking to make the deep run this season. I think he looks really scary. He looks really hot off of just beating IDM last season, and looking at his draft, it's threats.
It's threats, it's value, it's setup, and it's hard to break.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I mean, we were talking especially about like his tier 5 picks, and even his tier 4 picks to an extent, are really good pickups, right? Like, he got all the best Pokemon, I feel, from both of those tiers. Why don't you run us down the full list?
Okay, so we're kicking it off with immediately just Volcarona. Volcarona, good Pokemon, hits hard, sets up like a champ, always has the shiny Tims.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of mandatory for a Firebug type.
Well, honestly, I mean, it was good before it got Tims, and now it's insane. I mean, it was already insane even. It's just now it's double insane.
Yeah, it was good before it got Tims, but it was forced to have a team that supported it, because if it came in on rocks, it just didn't have the health to set up anymore. But now that it has Tims and it can just come in whenever like an opportunity arises, it's so much better.
Yeah, Volcarona's just nuts.
Speaking of getting rid of like annoying rocks, we've got Mandibuzz.
This creature also, ironically, benefits from Tims a lot.
Also benefits from Tims. Can defog. Man, Flying Dark is a good type combination, especially for something this bulky.
Yeah, it is hard to break through. I mean, really. Plus, I mean, obviously, getting access to Roost is just crazy good, and
Roost recovery is really good. Overcoat makes it so that powder abilities and weather don't wear it down.
Access to foul play makes it really good against like Pokemon that can't quite one-shot it but are really strong.
Yeah, and this thing is hard to one-shot. 110 base HP with like 105 base defense and 95 special defense.
This thing takes hits. I mean, it really does.
I'd say like that's chunky, and it's not even that slow. It's base 80 speed. That's just good.
Yeah, like that'll outrun slow Pokemon with no investment.
Yeah.
So good Pokemon. We love Mandibuzz.
Yeah. Then, keeping with the dark type train, we've got Crawdon, who is sort of like the inverse of Mandibuzz, where it's not that sturdy.
But it hits.
But
it hits
hard
and
fast,
fast,
Yeah, this thing hits like a fucking truck. Especially like adaptability is an absolutely nutty ability.
Yeah, it's insane. And especially, I mean, think about this thing getting access to adaptability stab. Well, I mean, obviously you don't have to even say stab, right? It's adaptability Aqua Jet. Whew! Throw a choice band on that hoe, and it's running through a lot of Pokemon in one shot. I mean, it's really strong.
Yeah, that's suddenly with like 120 base power on a base 80 power priority move coming at you.
Absurd.
Because adaptability doubles.
Yeah, double stab.
Double stab. So like base 40 Aqua Jet suddenly becomes base 80.
Tell me about his other tier 3.
Silvally. So if there was any weakness to this team, you can disregard that now because Silvally is there to counter it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like, usually, you start getting into like more, like bandage coverings for type weaknesses or things that your team is lacking. Silvally is not just a bandage. Silvally is, full medical care.
Yeah.
For any problem he might be having. Because, this thing gets defog, it gets parting shot, base 95 across the board it's decent. It's, like, quite bulky.
Mm-hmm. And it gets especially a lot of interesting setup, too. I mean, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of moves it can run. It can run physical, it can run special, multi multi-attack?
Yeah, multi-attack is 120 base and stab always, so...
Yeah, it's just good. It's just plain and simple. If there was any problem that we were having, then Silvali's there to
patch
swoop in. Yeah. As of, if you've played DPP, you've probably seen this thing.
Yeah, it's the classic Sash lead, rocks, U-turn, explosion. You can even run just regular psychic and just hit things. It's got levitate, so it's always nice to have in the back as a ground immunity.
It's got levitate, it's got stealth rock, it's got U-turn, it's got stupid high attack. It's fast. It's really fast.
It's really fast, yeah. I feel it's just really good. I mean, in Tier 4, it's a steal.
Definitely. Especially, this thing's move pool actually goes quite a ways as well. A lot of things you can do with this thing. And
then compare that... Well, I'd also like to actually talk about... So we're about to talk about Lycanroc Dusk, and we didn't really go over it when we were looking at Scoots' draft, but he got Lycanroc Midnight, and Lycanroc Midnight is definitely the worst of the 3 Lycanroc forms. Lycanroc Dusk, probably the best of the 3 Lycanroc forms.
Yeah, not even probably, just definitely. Tough Claws, yeah. as its ability is so good. And Accelerock, which used to be Lycanroc Day's signature ability, signature move rather, which is a 40 base power rock priority move that's fully accurate, which rock really appreciates because there's just not that many options that are fully accurate for rock types.
Yeah.
That was already good with I think 115 base power that thing had. So that was already strong. And now this thing comes in and has Tough Claws, which Accelerock does benefit from. So it's just randomly two more added attack, because why not?
Yeah. Just an obscenely good Pokemon. I mean, honestly, just Accelerock alone, super good. It's pretty fast. I mean, it's very fast even, and it hits hard enough, and even though it's pretty frail, it does work. I mean, that thing really, don't sleep on it, for sure.
Yeah. It's funny, because I know half the reason that he even drafted it is so nobody else would have it as an easy answer to Volcarona.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, that's good drafting practice, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that there's only 2 Pokemon that get it, so he has one, and the worst option's out there somewhere.
Yeah. And, shouts to Nidoqueen as one of his other Tier 4s. That thing is really, really strong in Tier 4. That's another just incredible value pick.
Yeah, all of these are such good value picks.
Yeah. It almost feels like all of Vincent's draft is 1 tier higher than it should be. His Tier 5s are Tier 4s, his Tier 4s are Tier 3s, his Tier 3s are Tier 2s, he just got so many incredible Pokemon. It's just gonna be hard
really
to beat.
Good. Yeah, Nidoqueen, can fill a lot of different roles, can set up rocks and spikes. Toxic spikes anyway. But it can also hit quite hard with Sheer Force Life Orb. Both the Nidos have this weird little quirk where their special attack is lower than their physical attack. But just
they
because...
pretty much always run special, yeah.
Yeah, they run special just because both its special move pool is better, and special moves tend to have secondary effects, which get boosted by Sheer Force, which ultimately makes them actually more powerful.
Yeah, and especially with the variety. I mean, Nidoqueen gets access to you've got Fire Blast and Ice Beam and Sludge Wave and Earth Power and all that guff. There's not a lot that you can't hit.
Yeah, all of which have secondary things for Sheer Force to take advantage of. Then we have Registeel, which we've seen Regis use good effects in the past.
Yeah. Regis are always, I think, a pretty good pickup in draft. Even the Tier 5 ones, I think, are good.
Yeah, you use Regice, very good effect. I think we only really haven't seen that much action from Regirock. Just because, high physical defenses feels like the least useful of all, especially given that
Registeel has both, really.
Yeah, and also that just Rock is just almost an objectively worse type than Steel is.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but Registeel, I mean, is super duper good. I mean, Regice, even though it had a pretty crappy type, deceptively, insanely high special defense, and Registeel's kind of the best of both worlds. It can, again, set up good rocks. It can seismic toss stuff that it can't normally hit. It can gyro ball stuff that would hit harder, or Iron Head if he's going for neutral. He can You know, what, this thing is toxic, I'm pretty sure. Can, like, sub,
Yeah.
you know, like, leftovers, rest. Like, it's...
Rest stock.
Yeah. It's got a lot of options, even though they're, like, lower tier options for recovery and sort of defensive counterplay. They do exist, and it honestly, without, you know, proper prep for this thing, just sits on you.
Yeah, this thing, I feel, in combination with Mandibles already makes a very durable
defensive
wall combo.
Absolutely.
Just the big problem with it, if you have a special Pokemon, it's going to set up on both of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Given that Mandibles sort of punishes physical attackers with Pop-Line.
Mm-hmm. And I want to hear you sing the praises of Archeops, please.
Archeops is an amazing Pokemon, and I will not have anybody say anything else. Used this thing myself last season, and that was great. 140 base attack. We praised Landorus for having 145 base attack, which is insanely high, and that's a tier 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, and this is only 5 below in tier 5.
Yeah, this is tier 5. It does have the ability to defeat us, so like as soon as it drops below half health, its offensive stats get cut in half, which basically kills it.
Yeah, makes it pretty bad. I mean, the difference between 140 and 70 base attack is pretty bad.
It's pretty massive, but it has the speed to back it all up. 110 speed is good. This thing gets a good move pool, it gets shit like knockoff, it gets double wing beat, god tier fucking move.
Wing beat.
Yeah, Stone Edge, Hedge Smash, Earthquake. And then, just when you think you finally found the counter to this thing, suddenly you realize 112 special attack is also nothing to scoff at, and this shit gets stuff like Heat Wave.
Yeah.
It gets stuff like Hurricane. I think it can even learn Meteor Beam if you're into that shit.
Oh, it definitely can, yeah. Power of Archeops I've seen before, so... This thing is crazy. Archeops, do not sleep on that. I mean, in Tier 5, it is possibly the best, if not one of the best. If not just one of the best Tier 5s. Crazy good pickup. Chinchino also, crazy good pickup. That thing gets skilling. It just fucking whop, pop, 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 pop with Tail Slap, or Rock Blast, or Bullet Seed, or Triple Axle.
Yeah, and it's even faster with 1/15.
Yeah. God, Vincent's draft is so fast. He's only got like 4 or 5 Pokemon below base 100.
Yeah, it's an incredibly like fast running team. But then you like consider that, you know, Volcarona sets up and becomes faster.
Yep.
Silvally can run like flame charge to become faster.
You can run Tailwind to make everyone else faster.
Oh Jesus, yeah, you can run that on Archeops. Like Archeops, usually it'll run like a lot of attacking moves, and then usually like some kind of like rock move or Tailwind, just to like have something to do when it gets dropped below half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it gets U-turn too, because why the fuck not? Just hit something for 140 base power and then get out of there. It's so good.
Yep. And of course, in the back, we got Heliolisk, which I think it's funny. You know, Heliolisk is generally a pretty strong Pokemon, but a lot of people will draft Heliolisk to complement weather, because its 3 abilities all benefit different types of weather. You know, Dry Skin, Sand Veil, Solar Power. You know, obviously are benefited by rain, sand, and sun, respectively. No hail, because hail sucks. But Heliolisk is sitting here on a team with no weather, so that's kind of funny.
Yeah, they'll just, you know, because we know there is weather, like, within the...
Yeah.
Actually, is there any... No, there's definitely sand.
There is, yeah, because Firebolt has sand.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. And Matt has sand. No, Matt had sand. Doesn't anymore. He wanted sand.
Right.
Didn't get sand.
But even without those abilities, I mean, Electric Normal is a pretty, you know, I think it's a good type combo to fill in, right? As sort of backfill, right? If you're rocking like a Ghost Weakness or a, you know, shoot, like you need an electric, like a fast electric pivot or something. Like this thing does just get quick Volt Switch at 109 base speed, and it moves, it goes quick, and it does damage, and, you know, if there's opposing weather that it can abuse, then it can abuse that on the side.
Yeah. Also just, you know, having that potential water immunity, very good. And just, like, normal stab in Hyper Voice, it's just so annoying, because not that many things resist normal.
Yeah. You're gonna have to have some kind of, like, steel or something. And then I think this thing gets, like, Surf, right? Or you know...
Yeah.
It's weird.
It gets good coverage.
So.
Yeah, but, you know, This team is very fast, but tell me something, Spood. What happens if any one of these Pokemon gets paralyzed?
Well, let me tell you, they are going to stay paralyzed, because I know that we said that 2 of our previous teams have no clerics. This team literally has no clerics, no wish, no heal bell, no aromatherapy. There is absolutely nothing. Any damage taken by something that can't roost itself or recover is permanently there. All status is permanently there. If these Pokemon get paralyzed, they're at half speed. If they get burnt, they're at half attack. And that's just the way it is.
The literal only exception is to sleep it off.
Yes. Well, okay, there is one other thing, which is that Volcarona, there are some sets that run Safeguard now, so that you can, set up without having fear of being toxic, which could benefit him somewhat in certain situations. But aside from that, yeah, he's fucked. I mean, if you take a hit, it's bad. And I mean, I guess as far as weaknesses to a team go, I mean, he has essentially 11 incredible Pokemon. He's got good, he can get rocks up pretty consistently. He can get rocks off fairly consistently if he needs them. Not that he's going to need to do it that often, because Volcarona's always running Tims, and Mandibuzz is always running Tims. And he's got a lot of fast pivot. Oh my god, has he got a lot of fast pivot.
Yeah, don't fucking count any of these Pokemon staying in for more than a turn or two.
Yeah, he can knock, he can taunt. I mean, really, the only thing besides clerics that he doesn't do is his screens are not going to happen, right? He's just not going to have screens.
Yeah.
He technically can, but they're just not really an issue.
Yeah, itself would have to set them up, and otherwise there is no one Pokemon that has both.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Aside from that, other slights against this team is that struggles against water quite hard. The only resistor is Crawdon.
Yeah.
And then there is actually quite a few weaknesses, including some of his Pokemon that I see him bring a lot. And obviously Volcarona, Lycanroc's weak to it, Nidokings weak to it.
Yep.
Archeops is weak to it. And funnily enough, most of his Pokemon, when it comes to ground, are either immune to it or weak to it.
That's true. He definitely interacts with ground quite a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I think it's a good draft. It's definitely got its weaknesses, certain type weaknesses, or, he's missing certain archetypal staples like a bulky water he doesn't have. But ultimately, I mean, this is a draft that I'm terrified of. If I have to team build against this, it's going to be agonizing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to have to, you're going to need to bring a big old cannon to blast your way through Mandibuzz, and then make sure that Mandibuzz doesn't shoot the cannon back at you.
Yeah, so.
One Quiver Dance can get Volcarona into sweeping range for whole teams. Crawdon, with just a single sword stance, can just sort of aqua jet his way through a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of good stance can get just some stuff going,
Yeah, a lot of good priority going on.
Yeah. So
the wild card in Savali also just every time.
Yeah, seriously.
Probably the custom built answer to whatever problem your team might pose to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I like this team. I think this team is strong. I think this team is very, very strong. But Aurora, I'd like to talk about a team that's not this team.
What team would you like to talk about?
I would like to talk about the Minneapolis Magnezones, coached by Imitable Mass. This team is hilarious because let me read you the Pokemon. See if you can spot the difference, okay? We got, as a Tier 1, Celesteela. Tier 2, Latios. Tier 3, Primarina and Rotom Wash. Tier 4, Frostlass, Gardevoir, Snorlax, and Tyrantrum. Tier 5, Charizard, Morpeko, Trapinch. Which one of those Pokemon do you think doesn't belong?
Well, obviously, Snorlax because he's fat.
Yeah, really. Side note, I love the Trapinch pickup. So here's the thing about Trapinch. Trapinch may look like a meme pick to those of you uninformed, and in some ways it is definitely a meme pick. I mean, just look at it. It's just a it's just a Trapinch.
It's a first evolution. It's not even a Vibrava.
It's not
a
even a
Trapinch.
Vibrava. This Trapinch has two things, or I guess three things going for it. Trapinch has access to the ability Arena Trap, which is legal in this league. Trapinch has base 100 attack. The way that the Flag Online works is that Trapinch has 100 base attack, then it drops down when it evolves into Vibrava, then it comes back up when it evolves into Flagon. But Trapinch inexplicably has base 100 attack stat. Very good, even. It's more than workable. This thing has access to First Impression. So, what Trapinch can do is come in on something like a Dark or Psychic type that is not massively physically bulky, and it can click Banded First Impression, and the opposing Pokemon cannot switch out, and it will kill it, and Trapinch will get a kill.
It's so weird.
I know.
Like, a lot of things had to come together for this little, like, head bobbing motherfucker to be useful in any capacity as a fully unevolved Pokemon that has 2 stages above it.
Yeah.
And, like, its other stats are hilarious.
I love the 10 base speed is incredible. I mean...
This thing can be as slow as 22 speed if you give it no IVs and negative speed nature, no investment.
I mean, honestly, looking at it, this thing could do okay on Trick Room. Because, I mean, you've got this 100 attack, so you can just, like, spam Earthquake.
Yeah. I mean, Bass has Trick Room. I want to see the game where Gardevoir sets up Trick Room, gets skills. This thing comes out and proceeds to sweep.
I would fucking love that. I mean, Trapinch can do it. I know we're just talking about Trapinch, but that's one of those sort of niche draft techs that you're not necessarily going to be familiar with until it happens to you, and you're just like, what the fuck,
Yeah, like...
Good Pokemon.
Yeah, like, even, like, speed that low, even a lot of Pokemon with just, like, barely higher speed that are running, what's the fucking item called? Like, Heavy Iron Ball?
Iron Ball, yeah.
Are not gonna outslow it.
I know. Base 10 is obscenely slow. I mean, it's so slow, it's good. It almost is its own good speed tier, the way that it outslows everything in the game.
It's 5 points faster than Shuckle, and that's it, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think anything is slower than it.
So, love Trapinch. That thing can definitely do some stuff. It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah. Then, after having talked extensively about Trapinch, we go all the way back to the top and address that little pin we put in earlier.
Yeah.
Celesteela.
That Pokemon.
Holy cow.
Bussin'. Yeah, that thing is crazy. Celesteela is really versatile. It has just really good stats across the board, except its speed, which is quite bad. But aside from its speed, I mean, this thing can run defense, it can run offense, Beast Boost can complement both playstyles. This thing gets a Leech Seed for some insane reason.
Yeah, this thing gets like a whole lot of coverage that I don't understand why. Like, why does this thing get Flamethrower? Why does this thing get Leech Seed or Giga Drain?
I don't know. I mean, it's insane, but it can work. It can work as a physical sweeper, it can work as a special sweeper, it can work as a physical wall, it can work as a special wall. I mean,
yeah,
it's...
and Beast Boost has the opportunity to boost all of them.
Yeah, it's literally like a Grim Nay for any stat you decide you want to push. It's just too good. Latios also pretty strong Pokemon. I don't think it's quite as versatile, but it's still very, very good. You can abuse Scarf and Specs, and you could... there's another set. So my insight to this is, like, Mass and I have laddered a bit between seasons, because Mass is one of our newcomers. He performed not as great as maybe he would have liked to last season, which was his inaugural season. He ended up going 1-6, getting 1 win and 6 losses in his group stage. So he did get 1 win above Woody, who ended up placing 0-7. So he at least has that going for him, and he has shown sort of, a drive to want to improve, and I think he's interested in seeing how he can do this season. But a team that we saw a lot of success with while laddering off stream, or between seasons, was Dual Screens Hyper Offense, and that team had Celesteela and Latios on it. So I think he's going to want to err towards running these very hyper-aggressive type Celestial Latios sets. And the Latios set specifically that I'm thinking of is Agility, Calm Mind, Stored Power, and Aura Sphere. Now Aura Sphere you can obviously swap out if there's no opposing Dark types, but Latios can do it. It's a good Pokemon, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things it can do. It's decently bulky. 130 special attack is, never a problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good speed.
Yeah, very good speed.
Yeah. Its typing could be better, but stab on store power,
Yep.
it's something to appreciate. Stab on just Draco dropping.
Yeah. And you know what's nice about Mass is he's got the double bulky water. I mean, Rotom Wash and Primarina. So Rotom Wash actually, it's not... It takes neutral from electric, which is like one thing, but Primarina and Rotom Wash, they I think complement each other decently well. I think they cover in terms of like having electric and fairy coverage, and one of them having levitate. It's a good thing to have. I think that one bulky water can be hard enough for a lot of teams to get through, let alone having two. That's the kind of thing I think stacking in certain matchups just is going to be good.
Yeah, I remember way back in the second season of SSL, my quote-unquote defensive core consisted of Gastrodon and Blastoise, and it works.
Yeah, it can.
It works. I won that season.
So there you go. In addition, we've got Frostlass. That Pokemon is pretty good. It actually, believe it or not, has the same physical and special attack, and just this generation got access to both Triple Axle and Poltergeist, meaning that physical sets have become more popular now than they used to be for Frostlass.
Yeah. Also gives it access to the Ice Shard.
Oh yeah, and honestly, the classic Frostlass set has pretty much always been like Spikes, Shadow Ball, Ice Beam, Destiny Bond, and really you run it like Sash really fast. You open by getting like a layer of Spikes, taking a hit, going down to Sash, and then you either Destiny Bond or set up a second layer of Spikes, depending on what you think the opponent's going to do. And you force these certain plays, like you can even get 3 layers of Spikes in the right situation just by spiking turn 1, taking the hit, and then if they think you're going to Destiny Bond, they switch into another Pokemon, and you get up a second layer of Spikes, then you get up a third one, because you're probably faster than whatever they switched in, So...
Yeah. Aside from that though, hazards on this team are also kind of lacking.
That is true. I think that Frostlass can make the spikes work, but aside from that, really only Tyrantrum gets rocks, and Tyrantrum, I mean, it can set up rocks, but I think mostly you're going to see Tyrantrum trying to attack stuff, kill things in front of it with like Rock Head, Head Smash. So
yeah, or Strong Jaw.
Yeah, or Strong Jaw. That's true. Gardevoir is a very interesting Pokemon. It does fill a lot of playstyles. Trace can actually find, I think, a lot of success in draft where maybe
Trace
can't find as much.
Yeah, Trace is so good because in draft, abilities that grant immunities are very highly valued. So just being able to like nab those, pretty good. There's a lot of Ultra Beasts running around, so nabbing Beast Boots is always good. There's a lot of different situations where Trace is very applicable, and even if it's not synchronized, it's always a decent run.
Yeah, it's nice to just, whatever happens to me happens to you. You can throw it in on a Toxic and something gets Toxic. So, Snorlax is, I think, a great value pick for Tier 4. That thing is pretty beefy.
Yeah, especially with Thick Fat, which, it's one of the abilities that Trace loves to copy.
Yeah.
This thing... despite being a normal type, basically has 2 resistances because of it. Also immune to ghosts, obviously, and only weak to fighting.
And speaking of immune, the ability Immunity can actually help a lot in certain stall sets, like Curse Lax setup and things. Immunity making it so you can never be poisoned is just awesome. I mean, that really can help. But yeah, generally you're going to want to take that.
Yeah, so, two good abilities. In different situations. Thick Fat more generally useful immunity.
Yeah.
For the specific Tyrantrum, also really good. Rock Dragon, quite strong offensively.
Yeah.
A lot of attack to go along with it. Kind of lacks in the speed department. But it's got Dragon Dance. If it even gets 1 Dragon Dance up, this thing is running.
Yeah. You just have to be careful. Tyrantrum does like to bite the hand that feeds, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, if you're relying on Head Smash, Don't rely on Head Smash.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, poor Firebolt missed out on playoffs last season because he missed a Head Smash in week 1, and it ended up mattering like right at the end in terms of his like win-loss and in terms of like squeaking into the top 4. With that win, he would have gotten in, and he would have certainly gotten that week 1 win with a Head Smash that landed, but his missed, and then he lost. Which was the story of a lot of people last season, to be honest.
Yeah, fucking... God, fuck not 100% accurate moves.
Yeah.
They'll always... You know, they'll drag you into bed with their like slightly higher stats. You know, you'll get comfy, you'll build an intimate relationship, but then when it hurts the most...
And then just... You're pegged. It's over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a rough moment. So... you gotta watch Tyrantrum, man. That thing, it'll give you everything you want, and then it'll take it away from you. Charizard is cool.
Yeah, Charizard's cool. It's sort of had like acceptable stats from Generation 1 onwards.
Yeah.
And the stats are still fine.
Yeah.
You know,
another Pokemon that really likes boots. You know, it was another.
Yeah, it's another quad. Yeah, another quad week. The rocks.
But at least, you know, with boots, it can kind of come in and, you know, I think a lot of people like to see it on Sun teams with its solar power, but even without solar power boost, it's okay. You know, it has a pretty respectable special attack, and it's base 100 speed, which is nothing to sneeze at. So.
Yeah. I find it a funny like mental image that like without boots and having solar power and the sun on, you could speedrun like Charizard killing yourself.
That's true. You show up, you've got the sticky barb. And then Morpeko is the last one we're going to talk about. Morpeko is, I think, a great Pokemon. In Tier 5, it's pretty fast. It's not quite base 100, which can bite it sometimes, but it does outspeed pretty much everything that's not base 100. In that, I mean, Aura Wheel is a really strong move, base 110. It's stab either electric or dark, depending on the turn, and it also gives access to Parting Shot, Volt Switch, Rapid Spin, Super Fang. I mean, it can really do work. In 95 base attack, again, nothing to sneeze at. It's okay. It's an okay stat. So I think Morpeko, as kind of like a fast boots pivot that can spin hazards and essentially do shitty Nature's Madness to things. I love Morpeko. I think it's a cool Pokemon. I think it's a really cool Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a good Pokemon. It's very good support, I feel, for setting up sweeps with for Celestial Arladias. Especially like with Hyper Fang, getting those walls down that usually block them.
Yeah.
Definitely good. And don't underestimate, because Aura Wheel also boosts speed, doesn't it?
Yes, Aura Wheel raises your speed by 1 stage every time you use it.
Yeah, so that's 120 base power move that switches between electric and dark type each turn. It hits very hard, it makes it faster, so once it like... Honestly, this thing can sweep as well in a weird way.
It can. It honestly can. I had games where it almost could do it. I never quite pulled it off, but I've definitely seen games where I was like, Morpeko can click Aura Wheel 6 times and win. So.
Yeah, like it's just like a pseudo speed boost, basically.
Yeah. So I like the draft. I honestly think it's pretty good. Like you said before, it's a bit lacking in hazards, but it has options. It can defog pretty well, and like I said, Morpeko is not a bad spinner. Gardevoir can fill that clerical role. You know, there's stuff. You know, I would say if anything, he's really lacking in item removal because all he's got is knockoff Gardevoir, which is not.
Yeah. So your items are pretty much gonna be safe against mass here.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, like a fuckload of Pokemon can run screens. There's a decent amount of momentum gaining with like flip turns, parting shots, and teleports and volt switches.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Priority is also there.
Yeah, like we said, I mean, star of the show Trapinch can first impression some stuff for some really good damage.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, I don't think that there's a lot of great priority. Aside from like possibly, you know, Frostlass, Ice Shard.
Frostlass, Ice Shard, and don't underestimate the Aqua Jet coming out of Primarina.
That's true. There are definitely scenarios, and more than a couple, where that can decide a game. So.
And one thing also to not forget is that, like, very weirdly, Gardevoir can run Shadow Sneak.
Yeah, like it won't, but it can. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's situations where it could come in useful.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like Gardevoir can do a lot of things, but it probably won't do most of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good pickup for versatility, but it kind of... You can only have it do so much at a time before it hits, you know, its limit of usefulness.
Yeah. aside from that, move resistance for the type resistance pretty good. Only real complaint being again rock types, which are quite hard to resist reliably.
Yeah.
The only resistors here is a Trapinch, which is not. It's
not a resist. I mean, my boy Trapinch with his 45 base HP is going to live that. Is going to live that fucking rock move.
Yeah.
I mean, if he parting shots, you know, Lycanroc Midnight, or rather, Lycanroc Dusk, and goes into Trapinch, and you know, Trapinch. Well, okay.
Maybe after a parting shot on a Shuckle, we can talk about Trapinch living ahead.
Yeah, maybe. maybe. But that's the mass draft. I think it's gonna be. I think this is a fun looking draft. I think this draft can pretty easily sweep unprepared people, and even prepared people. I think can be caught off guard by some of the stuff that this draft can do. I think he has a lot of scary Pokemon in a vacuum, like Snorlax, Tyrantrum, Rotom-Wash, Celesteela, Latios. You know, even Primarina. Like all of his sort of upper half of his draft feels like it could be very strong and kind of scary to fight individually if you don't have the right answers. So. I look forward to seeing how he performs this season. I think, honestly, I'm almost positive he performs better than last season. I think he picks up at least 2, maybe even 3 this season in terms of wins. So,
yeah, I'm rooting for him, honestly.
Yeah, we love Mass. I give him a hard time a lot, but I love Mass.
We stand Mass.
We do stand Mass.
But I think moving on, from the Magnezones.
Take me elsewhere. How about we diversify our opinion? Instead of zooming in on Minneapolis, why don't we zoom out to...
all of Minnesota and every Magikarp involved in it.
Yes, the Minnesota Magikarps.
Which is really just the one that goes by Firebolt that we need to look at.
Yeah. Firebolt is kind of... You know, I love Firebolt, and I think he's a pretty good player, to be honest with you. But to me, Firebolt is kind of the story of tragedy, where he's always so close and then just some bullshit happens.
Yeah, I know I stole it from him a couple seasons ago. He was kind of robbed last season.
Well, here's what's funny. So, Season 2, I know it's hard to remember Season 2, that was a fever dream, but Season 2, Firebolt could have made playoffs if he had landed a Fluor Cannon on Nightfall's Zoroark and missed. And Season 4, he could have made it to playoffs if he landed a Head Smash on Claire and he missed. So, he has lost 2 whole playoffs to misses.
I think the move against Claire was the same situation that Spoupman was in, where he could have clicked on a fully accurate move that would have killed also.
That's true.
But didn't.
That is
and then clicked on the not fully accurate move and got immediately punished for it.
Yep.
And not just with the loss for that match, with the loss for the playoffs, which, you know, hurts a man's soul.
I know. Of all the seasons that Firebolt has played, Season 2 he got robbed, Season 3 he made it in, and Season 4 he got robbed. So, I mean, Firebolt is just getting bullied constantly.
So if we're sticking with pattern, Season 5 he gets in.
There you go. That's you heard it here first, folks. And I will say, Firebolt, I think, is eager to enact some of that missing pain onto other people.
Yeah. How about you tell me about what Firebolt's Tier 1 and Tier 2 strategy is going to be here?
Firebolt has got Garchomp as his Tier 1 and Hippowdon as his Tier 2. He has no other Sand Abusers, really, besides Garchomp. And Garchomp is not traditionally something that would abuse Sand, because, you know, when you think of a Sand Abuser, you think of Sand Force or Sand Rush, generally. Garchomp gets access to Sand Veil, which it does not generally run, but when it is running, will obviously reduce the accuracy of opponents' moves, I believe to 0.8, right? So it moves 100%, moves down to 80%, and throw a Bright Powder on top of that, and you're approaching 70, right?
Yeah, also I just realized Palisade gets it too.
Oh, God, you're right!
How did we not notice that before?
We looked at this team and we were like, fuck, dude. So honestly, evasion strats, you know, generally you don't see evasion used because it's a Smogon ban, right? It's hard banned in all Smogon tiers. You cannot raise your own evasion, so you can't use like minimize or I don't know. I feel like there's another move that people use.
Double team.
Yeah, double team. That's right. Double team and minimize are really the big ones. You can't raise evasion naturally, and even through other methods like Moody, where you are technically able to raise evasion, are also banned. Like, Moody is also not allowed in this draft league or in Smogon OU. So, really, you can't raise your own evasion without throwing a Bright Powder on or using, you know, like a Sand Veil ability or like Snow Cloak or something. We saw kind of a renaissance of accuracy cheese last season, especially in Grand Finals. Cemith versus Scoots. Cemith had a Gastrodon that was running Mud Slap, which lowers the accuracy of the opposing Pokemon, which is legal. They've never made it so you can't lower accuracy, because you can just switch out. But you can
just switch out and you can reset it.
So, honestly, what we see Firebolt here has prime set himself up to do is throw a Bright Powder on Garchomp, sit there in Sandvale, and dodge 3 out of 10 hits, which is way more than it sounds like. If you know Pokemon, you know that you hate running Stone Edge at 80% accuracy because it always fucking misses. This is even worse if he throws a Bright Powder on it. So
yeah, Stone Edge at this point is going to be, I think, 63% accurate.
It's
which
horrific.
You're approaching a 50-50 at this point.
Yeah, it's just no good. So Garchomp, I mean, even on its own, is just an incredible Pokemon. Definitely deserves its tier 1. It can dual dance, you know, it can sort. Well, it can't really dual dance, right? But well, I guess it can, right? It has Rock Polish.
Let me go check. You keep talking.
I think it does. Well, I know that Garchomp is pretty infamous for not having Dragon Dance, so I know it doesn't have that. But Garchomp had, or rather has, access to its very popular setup sweeping set right now is Swords Dance Scale Shot.
Yeah, it's Scale Shot is the other move.
Yeah, and if you know the issue with Swords Dance Scale Shot is that Scale Shot lowers your defense, but it raises your speed when you do it. If you're dodging hits, who cares what your defense is? You know, if something does 0 damage, doesn't matter if it does twice as much or half as much. It's 0 damage. So I think really, worst case scenario for the people that Firebolt is facing, they're gonna have to sit there and just pray they hit their Scald or whatever when Garchomp is in front of them scale shotting. Because if they can't, this thing sets up and fucking wins.
Bring wide lenses. You're gonna have to.
You're gonna have to bring wide lens or like counter weather or something, you know?
Yeah, or moves that are fully accurate, like Smart Strike, Air Lace.
Yep, and it's just tragic. So I think honestly, and I don't know if that's going to be sort of the foundation of his strat, but given that Hippowdon and Garchomp are his tier 2 and tier 1 Pokemon respectively, they're probably coming to just about every match. And I will say, he also was able to pick up Skarmory in the free agent trades after Nihlus dropped it for Glastrier. Firebolt picked it up, he swapped, I think, his Toxtricity for it. Let me actually double check that. Yeah, he swapped his Toxtricity for Skarmory, so Skarmory also synergizes quite well because it does not take chip from sand, and it can sort of set up these iron defenses and you know, roost, and you can whirlwind and rocks and spikes. And Skarmory just is a defensive powerhouse that is not being chipped down by sand when the opponent is. And so another thing, Togekiss, classic tier 3. This thing hits Air Slash, and it flinches 60% of the time. 2 in 3, roughly, you know, a little under. 2 in 3 hits, or rather 2 in 3 turns that you're getting hit by Air Slash, you're gonna flinch versus this Togekiss. And if you're flinching and then taking sand, and then flinching and then taking sand, you're getting worn down so fast. So this team is just sandpaper on your skin. This team literally just grinds people down.
It feels like if you're going up in a fight against Firebolt, you're going to the casino, you're going to play blackjack, blindfolded while, you know, nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're just hoping to God that whatever you're doing makes sense.
Yeah, you come out on the other side and you just fucking see what happens. You know, you do your best and you gotta hope that's enough. I think that, honestly, if anybody deserves to have a team like that, it's Firebolt, who's been screwed by the RNG so many times that he's just turned to the dark side. You know, this is his sort of heel turn moment for Double Dip, where he was like, I'm sick of missing moves, I'm gonna make everyone else miss moves.
We're going to, like, you know, once we move into, like, match analysis, there's going to be like, yeah, this one move missing because of Xanfield, one Firebolt this match, and then we look back at that at the end of the season, and we're like, yeah, that one miss made him reach playoffs.
Yeah, and that's just the poetic ending to the Firebolt storyline. In addition, other things, we'll kind of breeze through it. Blaziken, Speed Boost is complex banned in this draft league. It's only able to use Blaze. But Blaziken, even without speed boost, is still pretty good. You know, it can hit pretty hard. It gets that priority. Does get access to Vacuum Wave. Shouts out. It's one of the only Pokemon that actually can use it to some good effect. Blaziken mix sets are pretty popular. I know that Cemith, even recently, you know, they've always been popular, but even recently, I've seen Cemith use Blaziken with Overheat in like close combat and things, and so, and it's got the stats to abuse both of its attacks. So
yeah, 120, 110 base, respectively, very good.
And Comfey. Why don't you tell me about Comfey?
Comfey, you know, Triage is an absolutely fucking ridiculous ability that never should have been made. It gives any move that heals +3 priority.
Which out-prioritizes almost everything that has priority.
Yeah. The first instinct people get with that is like, oh, shit like Synthesis or shit like Shore Up or whatever gets +3, which doesn't accomplish all that much. But then you realize it also works on Giga Drain and Training Kiss.
Yeah, both of which Comfey has access to, and both of which it uses. And even though it has a pretty, you know, it has actually a pretty respectable, come to think of it.
It's like, okay, it's usable.
Yeah, it's got a usable
82 is usable.
And it can set up with Calm Mind. And it's already relatively fast, so it can probably Calm Mind in front of whatever you've got it on, or if you're forcing a switch out because something is afraid of taking a priority Draining Kiss just raw. And if this thing gets up 1, it's hard to kill. If this thing gets up 2, it pretty much wins, I think, in most matchups. Unless you have something that can hard resist Grass and Fairy, which, you know, Steel can do that.
Poison
can do
Fire.
that. Does Fire resist Grass? I guess probably would, yeah. So Poison, Steel, and Fire can cause issues for Comfey, but when they're gone, Comfey is scary.
When they're gone, this thing just starts running through teams, and +3, you don't prioritize anything other than, you know, protect.
Yeah, and this was a Pokemon that I think was really brought into the spotlight last season as well by Claire, who used it to great effect and ended up taking one of the only wins on IDM that happened all season, using the very same Calm Mind Triage Comfey. So that thing, keep an eye out, because it's scary.
Yeah, any Pokemon that's like sort of key in beating IDM, I feel sort of everybody has like a little notepad in their back pocket that they whip out and just quickly note down.
The eyeball emojis fly out. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Eyeball sweat emojis.
Machamp also had a very good season last season, looking very strong on Cemith's team. And this thing, it's just insanely deceptively bulky. Guts and No Guard both can be used to great effect. Machamp is a good Pokemon. I mean, it's slow, but aside from that, it's got bulk. It can hit hard. It can run a fairly diversified moveset with the good coverage. It's a good mon. Machamp is a good mon.
Yeah, you know, 90 base HP, 80 base defense, and 85 base special defense. This thing's not taking too much from any particular side. Yeah. It's only one typing, so no quad weaknesses to speak of. Yeah. It's good.
It's good.
Good, bulky, takes hits. Then we have the other Sand Abuser, quote-unquote Sand Abuser.
Quote-unquote.
in Palisand.
Yeah. Palisand is awesome. Yeah. It's a really good Pokemon.
Yeah. This thing also gets Sandville, so it can do the same dodge shenanigans that Garchomp can.
Yeah, and it can also set up. I mean, the thing is, you know, Garchomp is more of an offensive setup machine. This thing is a defensive setup machine.
Yeah, this thing can like defensively set up. It's a bit hard to do without water compaction because you're not getting that defense raise as easily. But with Sandstorm up, you recover 75% of your HP with Shore Up.
Yep.
And I think that's more than literally anything aside from like Healing Wish and Rest.
Yeah, it's insane. It's a lot of recovery, and even without water compaction, if you're running Sand Veil for the evasion, you know, you can still Amnesia. I believe it gets Iron Defense or Acid Armor or something. You know, it gets Stockpile. I know, which I know IDM used like last season. You can run Weakness Policy on it. So it's this thing is scary. If you're not prepped to beat it, it will sit on you, and it will set up, and it will beat you.
Yep. Then we've got the Decidueye, another ghost type, this time with Grass. Both of its abilities are kind of whatever. Long Reach is interesting if you're going up against like a Ferrothorn or like a Garchomp with Rough Skin. We're not seeing that this season.
You're right.
Aside from that, Long Reach sort of has like very limited applicability, and Overgrowth, you know, the same as like all the other starter move abilities. Aside from that, doesn't really particularly excel in any given stat. It's sort of like middlingly fast, middlingly bulky.
Yeah.
It's a middling Pokemon.
Yeah, it's got a pretty underwhelming speed stat, to be honest with you. But
But it's here to sort of fill out as like I would say the grass type in the fire, water, grass form, but there's also no water type, so...
Yeah, honestly. There's not much of a traditional type trio core, as you might expect. He does have Dragon Fairy Steel.
Yeah, so one of the steel type's also part dragon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got Skarmory. I mean, he has basically 2 Dragon Fairy Steels, because he's got Garchomp, Skarmory, Togekiss, and he's got fucking Comfey, Duraludon.
Yeah, and before we skip over, Drapian's also here.
Yeah, Drapion, Firebolt used it a lot last season. Got some pretty good success with it. I think its Scarf set has been shown to be quite effective.
Yeah, so it should be quite effective. So every time I start calculating for this thing, I'm reminded that this attack is only 90. So it doesn't hit as hard as you'd want it to most of the time.
Yeah. But it can live hits, you know. It's Poison Dark is actually quite a good defensive typing, being really primarily weak to ground, which sucks. But you know, like if we got a Poison Dark type with Levitate, like, whew, that'd be a hard Pokemon to hit.
Yeah, definitely. Also, you know, when it comes to like archetype fillers, there's plenty of hazard setting, there's plenty of hazard removal, plenty of clerics, plenty of plenty of clerics, just 2 clerics. Yeah, bunch of priority options, bunch of momentum gaining, knockoff is plenty, taunts, screens. Yeah. You know, it's got all its bases covered.
This is the most drafty draft you can get. I mean, it's pretty good at a lot of different things and doesn't necessarily excel at any one thing, but there's obviously a central strat, which is that you're going to get an evasive ground type in. You're gonna fucking cross your fingers and hope that you dodge enough hits to set up and then win.
Yeah, the only real slight I have against this team is its ice weakness is big and glaring. Yeah,
it has a rough ice weakness, and also it's pretty slow. So if you get a fast ice type in here, which, you know, Kyurem is in this division, for example.
As is Weavile.
As is Weavile.
As is Ninetales. Alone.
Oh, right, Alone Ninetales and Alone Sandslash potentially. It's bad news for Firebolt if he doesn't have a good plan for that.
Yeah.
Although I will say Blaziken can vacuum wave that Weavile.
and the Sandslash, actually.
Yeah, the Sandslash. Yeah, you're right. So, you know, there's counterplay for sure.
Yeah. You know, the one ice resist we do have is able to put in the work.
Yep. So that's Firebolt's team. I think that, you know, if we're being completely honest, either he fucking balls out and just hits like 5 or 6 wins and just, you know, coasts into playoffs on that groovy shit, or he gets boned again. And that's just, you gotta be sad about it.
Either way, if you're matching up against him, make sure to kiss your Lucky Charm.
Yeah, just to make sure you blow on the dice before you roll them, because you're gonna need everything you can get.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
approaching,
that leaves us with only 2 more teams.
That's right. Approaching the twilight of this insanely long video, which is still somehow shorter than the other divisions, which was almost 3 hours long from what I hear.
Oh my god.
We're already hitting 2 hours, so I was originally like, man, what the hell, guys? Why is your video so long? And now I'm like, well, here's my fucking 2.5 hour long draft analysis with Aurora. We got Neerdowell Nidokings. Shoutouts to Cemith. This is my brother, my twin brother from down south. Shoutouts to Texas. We already know what we're all about down here. Cemith is someone who has seen a pretty meteoric rise. He had a really disappointing first season in Double Dip, where he showed up and played in Season 3 for the first time and went 2-5 and was pretty, you know, like 2-5 isn't the worst, right? Like it's pretty underwhelming, right? I don't think anybody comes in going like, yeah, I went 2-5. But, you know, it's not like you went 0 or got like the fluke 1 win. Like getting 2 means like, all right, I'm okay, you know, and maybe a better draft or a better matchup spread could have done me, you know, playoff potential. But 2-5 it's just it's a hard pill to swallow. He came back and got 2nd place the very next season. He shot up, and it wasn't even like a squeaking into playoff situation like Scoots did. He like solidly just blew through his division, which was itself insanely stacked. Claire, Scoots, IDM, all in that division. Firebolt. He ended up going 6-1, just like you did. He literally only lost to IDM, and then beat him in playoffs immediately after. So Cemith looks so good, and his draft is just an OU team. I mean,
holy.
Some bullshit.
Like, the top end of this draft is insane.
Yeah.
Like, we're immediately starting with one of my personal favorite Pokemons, Dragapult.
Shout out to Dragapult.
Shout out. This thing has a win under its belt.
It does, and this thing, I mean, it's no surprise because this thing is pretty much the face of Sword and Shield OU at this point. Like, in terms of newcomers to the series, right? Like, Gen 8 Galar Pokemon. Dragapult has, I think, left its mark. Like, Dragapult and Corviknight on the meta more than anything else. And for good reason. This thing just creams everything. It is absurdly fast. 142 base speed outruns, like, almost
pretty
all
much
Pokemon. Yeah, I mean...
Pretty much everything, like, notable exceptions are Regieleki it does not run.
That's right.
I don't think it outruns Pheromosa, but that's banned now.
Yeah. And there's maybe like one or two, like maybe Ninjask is faster. Yeah.
Yeah, Ninjask is faster.
Aside from that, I mean, Dragapult.
And a Celag. No, I think even a Celador is 140.
Wow, yeah. So Dragapult, it's just that good. The only thing about Dragapult is that, like, it doesn't win games by itself. It really does need the support. You need to get your chip in on the opposing team whenever you can.
Yeah, but it also supports, you know, its own sweeping capabilities itself quite well. This thing's special move pool is not the deepest, but it's as deep as it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's got the coverage it wants.
Its physical move pool is less great, especially, you know, again, notably, infamously, its only Ghost Stab is Shadow Force, or what is it called?
Phantom Force.
Phantom Force, that's it. I don't think it's its only Ghost Stab, but it's the only good one, right? Physical one.
Yeah.
That it has access to, and it sucks. I mean, you don't want to sit there and do a two-turn. It's basically like using Dig or Fly, you know, as your coverage. It's just not great. You know, there's a reason you see Lando T never runs Fly, but you have to see physical Dragapult running Phantom Force, and it's just no great thing. I will say though, Dragon Darts, you know, against a team that has few or no resists, well, that will tear up your team like nobody's business. That is hard to switch into.
Yeah, two base 50 hits from a, you know, 120 base attack coming off stab. Always good. This thing can get infiltrators or even like substitute or shit. Doesn't make you save.
Yeah, or it gets
ignores
clear body.
Screens.
Yeah, or it can get clear body. It can come in on like webs and not care, you know, or come in. You can't get intimidated, you know.
Yeah.
It's
very good Pokemon. Yeah, very good Pokemon. Very good. You know, and really appreciates the support. Like with support, this thing.
Yeah.
It becomes nuts.
So the only real issue I see for Dragapult in this division is that someone drafted Clefable, which hard counters Dragapult.
Yeah.
It was Cemith.
Yeah, let's move on to the next Pokemon, Clefable.
It's Clefable! Clefable, another OU staple since the dawn of time. It's always good. You look at its stats and you're like, oh, no, it is. I mean, okay.
Well, it's since it got its fairy typing.
Yes, okay, sure. We'll give you that. So, since it got its fairy typing, Clefable has been amazing, and in Gen 8, getting access to Teleport is no exception. And even without Teleport, because there's a lot of sets that don't even run Teleport, Clefable still has access to you know, Magic Guard and Unaware, two of the best abilities, and can be used really interchangeably in OU even, and in Draft even more so when you know what you need to be aware of, right? You can stop setup sweep dead in your tracks. You can stop, like, you don't have to worry about getting toxic with the Magic Guard set, so you can kind of calm mind up. It's an insane Pokemon. Clefable is just too good. It's just too good, and it's on Cemith's team in addition to Dragapult.
It's got that reliable recovery as well in soft world, because why wouldn't it?
Of course.
I think it can wish pass as well if it wants to.
Yeah, it can wish.
Yeah, just have that as an ability. I think it's a cleric, but I think it's heal well. Yeah,
Yep.
heal well and aromatherapy, both.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure, in case you need like an extra 8 PP for it or something, you know. Clef is just too good. And Nidoking is tier 3, in addition to Rotom Heat, is his other tier 3. Both great Pokemon as well. Nidoking has seen a pretty decent amount of OU usage, maybe not as much as the other two. But again, as we touched on with Nidoqueen before in Vincent's draft, sheer force, special moves, just dishing obscene amounts of damage to things with incredible coverage.
Yeah, again, with like the Gen 1 Pokemon just having access to a lot of weird moves that I don't know why they do.
Yeah.
But they're there for you to use.
Crazy stuff. Rotom Heat, also arguably the best Rotom form right now in Sword and Shield. Right now, I know at the very least at the beginning of the meta, Rotom Heat was OU and Rotom Wash was not, which was insane because if you've been playing Pokemon since roughly the time that I've been playing it, which, you know, I got into playing competitively around Gen 6, Rotom Wash has always been sort of the monolith of the Rotom forms, right? The other ones are alright, but it was always Rotom Wash that was, you know, doing stuff in OU. Rotom Heat just is good. It's a fairy resist with heavy-duty boots. Now it doesn't have to worry about taking 25% on rocks. Overheat can really do well to deal with things like Scizor and Ferrothorn and, you know, things like Celesteela, Skarmory, Corviknight. And not that you need to deal with the flying types with Overheat anyway, because you can just Volt Switch or Thunderbolt on them. And of course, don't forget that it can Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave or Pain Split or Defog. I mean, shoot, Rotom is just...
Yeah.
It's just Rotom.
Yeah, when they gave this thing access to Defog, like, it made a Pokemon that's already so good just so much better.
Yeah.
Because, like, it always had, like, it's never been a sweeper. It's always been, like, in a supporting role, and Defog just allows it to fill that role even better. One thing we forgot to mention about Clefable even, this stupid thing gets Stealth Rocks.
Oh yeah, Clefable gets rocks. Barf.
Why not?
Just the same way, it's like, why does Chansey get rocks? You know what I mean? Like, who gave that shit rocks?
It's fucking, like, in the pouch it is carrying its egg, I guess there's also just fucking pebbles in there.
The Chansey looks down and it's just a scrambled egg because all the rocks are flying around.
Oh, that's how it uses softboil. It just shakes around its belly, scrambles that egg, just walks in its pouch.
Oh my god, I hate that it gets rocks.
Yeah, filling out the fast electric niche, we've got Galvantula here. Yeah. It's decently hard.
One of the better Sticky Webbers as well.
Yeah, and with Compound Eyes, it can actually counteract...
you can hit Fireball's trap! Yeah, your Energy Ball on Palisand will actually hit. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Galvantula you'll see oftentimes runs Thunder instead of Thunderbolt, just because you've got Compound Eyes, so why not, right? Like, it's not perfectly accurate, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it's not 91% accurate, which at that point, like, with the Power Spike over Thunderbolt, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Especially given that it has, like, 30% chance to paralyze it instead of 10.
Yeah. And honestly, lately on OU, again, and this is just like my perspective as someone who's been playing OU lately, you do see a lot of people that have decided recently that things like Blizzard or Thunder are just worth it. That you just kind of run them over Thunderbolt and, you know, just hope you land things. A lot of, like, Clefable sets and things will just run Thunder just to hit those bulky waters a little bit harder. So Galvantula at least gets the accuracy bonus.
Yeah, it's always surprises to me that in competitive Pokemon, usually, like, in the actual, like, finals, oftentimes you'll see the people that are running Fire Blast and Blizzard and shit like that, the ones that are taking the risks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of obvious that if those are the ones that got kind of lucky with it and never missed with it, and never missed a critical moment with it. But, you know, sometimes, depending on, like, your Calyx, it can make or break a Calyx. If with Fire Blast you two-shot, and with Fire Blast you don't, or with Flamethrower you don't, then that's worth it. If you can catch, like, a flying type on a switch-in and you outfeed it, you can kill it before it boosts. Whereas otherwise you could start, like, boosting up and start regaining HP.
Right. And in addition to Clefable as a Calm Mind Magic Guard type, we have Reuniclus, another Calm Mind Magic Guard type that also gets access to Regenerator if you're feeling fruity. Reuniclus is strong. It's been in at least 2 grand finals of Double Dip. It was in Season 1 and Season 4. And both times, actually, I think, on Scoots' team, which is funny now that I think about it. And this was ultimately the Pokemon that brought Cemith down at the end of Grand Finals last season. And it left a large impression on him, large enough for him to want to grab it up this time. So now Cemith has the Reuniclus, and this thing, again, you can counterplay it, but some matchups you're just gonna be like, well, shit, I lose to Reuniclus. You know, like it's slow as shit, but it's just bulky enough and hits plenty hard enough that it can just do it. You know.
Yeah, and then suddenly you find it in a trick room, and then suddenly this thing's so fast that it runs everything except for your trapping.
Yeah.
Same brain cell.
Yeah, seriously. We're cooking up some heat here, Aurora. We should have been the one to get Trapinch.
Then Trapinch comes in, the first impression is this thing to death.
Yeah. It probably still lives, but you know, don't worry about
it. Oh, it definitely still is. Like, no worry.
Well, you know what? If this thing gets down to like 40%, then boom, that Trapinch is looking strong. Or you could just scarf the Trapinch. You know, I don't know. Anyway. Seismitoad.
Yeah, Seismitoad, Water Ground. We've mentioned it a few times before. We'll mention it again. Water Ground. It's one of the best type combinations in the whole game. Only weak to one thing. Granted, 4 times weak to that one thing. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, really, people don't generally run grass like coverage, you know, except to beat like Water Ground, you know.
Yeah, to beat Gastrodon, to beat Seismitoad,
to beat Quagsire. Whiscash loses to everything else anyway, so you don't really need to bring it for that. But all the Water Ground types, you know, that's why people run grass coverage. It's not something you see. Firstly, most Pokemon getting it all, right? Like, most Pokemon, if they do get grass coverage, it's some shit, like Absorb or Bullet Seed. But beyond that, like, just having that sturdiness and that, especially that, like, electric immunity, where you would normally be weak to it with the water typing, it's just so good. And Seismitoad can fill a defensive niche, sure, but generally fills a bit of more of an offensive niche than the other Pokemon. You know, it likes to abuse Swift Swim, or you know, it likes to kind of set up rocks and then like or be specs or whatever. Like, Seismitoad, of the 3 really good water ground types, or I guess 4, because there's like Quagsire, Swampert, Seismitoad, Gastrodon. Yeah. So of those 4 really good ones, I think Seismitoad is the most sort of offensively minded, sort of rain adjacent type. Although again, it's not on a rain team.
Yeah.
It's still a good pickup.
Yeah. Also, why do 3 out of the 4 water ground types have some kind of water immunity ability?
Tell me why they all get fucking recovered.
Because I guess things that live in the water just recover very well. I know frogs can recover quite well.
But you get Regenerator, because you can like rip their legs off and they can come back or whatever, you know? Like, whatever. Don't give a water ground type Regenerator. That would be horrible. We're dealing with enough with Toxapex. Okay, we don't need that.
Honestly, that wouldn't be like the biggest deal, since you usually can nuke it in one shot with just a well-placed grass type move.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Surfetched.
Surfetched. Surfetched is good. So, like we were saying earlier, sort of the top half of this draft is really, really good, and then the bottom half of this draft is a lot more niche.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 Pokemon are a bit oddballs.
Yeah, they're definitely oddballs. Surfetched, again, can actually see some really good usage. It's 135 base attack, which is really, really good, but it's so slow, and it's, you know, it's okay bulky, but not great, you know? It's not like, it'll probably take a hit from something and then die after.
Yeah, honestly, with 62 basic speed, it's not even that bulky. It's on the bottom end of, like, acceptable.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, it can pretty reliably probably take a neutral hit from something, but after that, it's pretty
no second one.
So, Surfetched is going to have to really do some stuff. Surfetched can run some funny things. It can run, like, the Leak set to like, crit boost, or it can just run Scarf or Banded. You know, like, fighting types with Scrappy are just so terrifying, because they really do just run through shit.
Yeah.
And Surfetched is no exception, especially with that high attack. But, you know, it's going to need some support, I think, or it's going to need to find the right matchup to really excel. Scavalier, you know... Again, a really good Pokemon. Actually, the exact same amount of base attack, but a bit bulkier and a lot slower.
Yeah, but it does have like another one of the like good type combos that we've talked about, Buck Steel.
Yeah, Buck Steel. So it's only weak to fire. So actually, I think that Escavalier does pretty well in rain, or at least I've seen it around in rain, the rare times that you do see it. But unfortunately, its abilities aren't super good. They don't complement it amazingly well. Yeah. Like, this is a Pokemon that I could see doing pretty good with, like, Regenerator or something, you know?
Yeah. Then a Pokemon that's somehow equally slow as a Scavalier, even if it doesn't really look like it, Greedent.
Yeah, Greedent. Base of 20 speed. What was Trapinch? It was 10.
Base 10.
Yeah, so these things are approaching.
This thing is, twice as fast as Trapinch is.
Yeah, double speed for Trapinch. Greedent is cool. So Greedent is one of those more meme picks, to be honest. Greedent, I think, is something that might excel in a game or two if it's played right and you get a little bit lucky with the counterplay. But overall, it really is just kind of a cheek pouch abuser with some decent HP bulk. So you kind of want to just get some special or physical bulk from somewhere, and hope you can live hits and not really do much damage back. I mean, I look forward to seeing Cemith prove me wrong on the Greedent front, because I know he's really excited about it, and I know he's used it to some success in lower tiers, but I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in the Greedent row.
We'll see whether it can prove itself sort of in the heat of battle.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I am a believer in, and that's Galarian Linoon. I think that's actually a really underrated, good pickup. This thing can trick. It gets quick feet, so you can actually get something like a toxic orb, toxic yourself, and then trick your toxic orb over to another Pokemon after you've given yourself quick feet, which will, I think is it double speed or does it 1.5?
It's 1.5.
1.5. That's still great because it's base 100 speed and it gets access to parting shots. So you can get this thing in as a fast pivot and just fucking zoom right out of there after dropping your Toxic Orb on somebody. So
yeah, I definitely like the few Pokemon that Cemith has that want to set up shit like Nihlus, Firebolt, Dragapult.
Yeah.
Definitely benefit from the opponent being down one stage on both offensive sets.
Yeah.
Because it can allow them to get up that first very crucial Dragon Dance or Calm.
Yeah. I really do.
Space.
I really do like Galarian Linoon for that. I think it does complement the team quite well, and I think it's a cool pickup that makes a lot of sense for Tier 5. Yeah, and his type matchup spread is actually really good.
He has nothing in the red, which is extremely hard to balance. I feel he kind of cheated by having two separate Pokemon that only have one weakness.
Yeah, cheated. Yeah, I mean, but it works. It clearly helps. There's nothing that you look at this team and you're like, oh my god, he's gonna get totally swept by such and such thing. I honestly think that this team looks just so insanely strong. And you might even think okay, well, he's missing a bit of hazard control. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe, but Rotom Heat is a really good defogger.
Yeah, I was about to say, it doesn't matter if you only have one or two Pokemon that can fill a certain role. If they can fill that role well and reliably.
Yeah. Seismitoad Clef can always get rocks. Clef can always do really good clerical work. Teleport, U-turn on Pulp, Dragapult will run U-turn a lot. Volt Switch on Galvantula and Rotom Heat, those things are what. So this thing, his team can pivot, his team can damage reduce, his team can taunt, his team, if anything, kind of lacks decent priority, but Galvantula, or not Galvantula, but Nidokings Sucker Punch is deceptively strong.
Surface first impression also can hit quite hard.
So he's got stuff, honestly. I think that this draft can do well versus pretty much any other draft. I don't see this draft being hard countered by anything. Maybe he uses the Firebolt on some misses or something, but aside from that, I feel really confident that this draft will, firstly, and just most apparently, I think that this draft is much stronger than the one he used last season to get second place. So
yeah, definitely.
That's kind of a scary thought. That's something that the Crown Division is going to have to really grapple with, because you're all going to have to fight him. So
yeah, and honestly, extra shoutouts to Cemith, because he usually plays on his phone.
Yeah, which is not easy.
Which is not easy. It also leaves very little room for even being able to calc, so he sort of has to do that shit by heart.
Yeah. I just love looking at his little sidebar where it says Season 3, 2 and 5 -6, Season 4, runner-up, 8-2 plus 18. Just what a glow-up. But I don't know. I think he did so good, and I look forward to seeing more great things out of Cemith, because I think that he is not done performing.
Yeah, and rounding us off with the last team is the Nevadan Ninetales as coached by Skittles.
Young Skibbles, welcome to the Thunderdome. So,
Welcome to the Thunderdome, right?
How would you describe Skittles' draft in a word?
It is very bulky, and it's kind of like a staple for Skittles.
I was gonna say it's stall. Skittles has always liked his bulky defensive teams, but this is just a completely. I mean, this is a hard committal to traditional stall until you get to like tier 4, at which point it kind of just goes fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You've got Ferrothorn in the tier 1 spot, which is just the classic, my god, this thing is the physical wall. It takes hits like nobody's business. Iron Barbs just causes so many problems with or without the Rocky Helmet for contact moves. And it really does disincentivize physical attackers to come in and punch through things. Like Blissey, his tier 2, who is incredibly specially bulky. I mean, you really cannot break through Blissey until you're like... Here's a handful of special things that can break through Blissey, right? Choice Specs, Kyurem, Focus Blast can 2-hit KO Blissey. +6 Volcarona can outdamage it with Giga Drain. That's pretty much it. I mean, I can't think of anything else.
Aside from that, you're kind of forced to run shit like Precise Shock, which hits on the physical defense side.
Yeah.
Which there are a few moves that work like that.
Yeah, assuming you can do it. Shell Sidearm or something, right? So
yeah.
Blissey will force that reaction, but I think Blissey and Ferrothorn, in terms of their typing, don't cover each other amazingly well because they're obviously both weak to fighting. But in terms of just incredible physical wall versus an incredible special wall, they just both do it. They're both super duper scary.
Yeah.
And if you thought that you could bring in your Corviknight to Iron Defense Body Press or something, you can't, because Magnezone. I don't even think Corviknight's in this division, but look, Magnezone.
What's it called? Skarmory's here and Celesteela's as well.
That's true, yeah. So Magnezone will excel versus Skarmory and Magnezone. Magnezone will excel versus Skarmory and Celesteela, but in general, Magnezone, good Pokemon. We love Magnezone.
Yeah, it has sort of taken a bit of a hit that it struggles a bit harder to take out, like, just normal opposing steel types.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have Hidden Power Fire anymore.
That's right.
It did gain Body Press, so that's sort of like the new way it tries to like take care of things. But like steel types seem to be very physically bulky, so it's tougher.
It can struggle, yeah. Magnezone really does its best when it's checking those very specific steel flying types. But aside from that, can definitely struggle with just killing other steels. So, losing Hidden Power hurt it a lot. Getting Body Press is nice, it can Iron Defense Body Press, and that's not a bad set. I mean, even in and of itself, in a regular game, Electric Steel is a pretty good defensive typing. It's only weak to Ground and Fighting, I think, and Fire. And Fire. And if you can get rid of that ground type weakness, which you can like Magnet Rise or give it a balloon or something, if you really just want that one turn, getting off one Iron Defense can make Magnezone really hard to kill if you don't have a good special attacker in the back for it.
Yep, very good. A bit more niche now than it used to be, but still has its role to fill.
Yeah, still very respectable pickup.
Yeah, you got Slowking, very annoying regenerator, teleport switching, special bulky motherfucker.
Slowbro really got the glow up this generation. It loves just throwing out future sights and teleporting around and eating physical or special hits. Slowbro takes the physical hits, Slowking takes the special hits, Galarian Slowking also takes the special hits, but like even better than regular Slowking, I think. It's a good Pokemon, and Regenerator makes it no joke.
Yeah, Regenerator can... if you just have two Regenerator Pokemon and your opponent is sort of lacking in offense, you can just sort of like keep switching between the two.
Yeah.
And PP stall that way.
Yeah.
Which is awful.
And it works.
And there is a second. Yeah, there is a second Regenerator Pokemon here. It's not that good. Probably not gonna see it all that much.
We'll touch on that when we get there, but
Araquanid's, Water Bubble is a fucking ludicrous ability. If Pokemon with Trace got like better water coverage, and they managed to trace Water Bubble.
Yeah, holy shit.
Nuts.
Why does Water Bubble just do all of that shit? It's just crazy.
I find it strange that they made like a Water Bubble so strong, and then like Araquanid itself is like stat-wise, it's kind of middling, because it has to be, because like this water bubble.
It has water bubble, yeah.
Yeah, but it like raises it.
Yeah, but because this thing feels like it hits so hard, but it's a base 70 attack. But a liquidation from this thing is gonna fucking pop your pussy open because it's fucking got water bubble, you know? So Araquanid's too good, and you can't burn it because it has water bubble, so it doesn't matter. So Araquanid is awesome. It's also very specially bulky, believe it or not, and you know,
yeah, weirdly so.
It actually does. There's a set again. We saw it used a bit last season, but I always like to, you know, I like to remember my roots. Gen 7 pre-bank OU Araquanid mirror coat was just so good. I mean, it would catch, you know, like Coco Volt Switch and live and just delete a Pokemon that came in after, you know?
Yeah.
So, Araquanid's super duper good. And it can set up webs too, which is always nice to have in the back.
Always nice to have in the back. Skill Sustain doesn't appreciate it the most. Kind of funny that a lot of the teams that have webs are teams that don't necessarily benefit all that much from it.
Well, I think, to be fair, people haven't really been drafting to get webs as much as they've been drafting good Pokemon that have webs.
Yeah. As I said, like, Galvantula is good on its own. Araquanid's like good outside of webs.
Yeah.
You know, they're perfectly fine Pokemon without it.
Yeah.
Speaking of perfectly fine Pokemon, Braviary.
That is a perfectly fine Pokemon. I believe he had it last season as well, right?
Yeah, Braviary is just a very, you know, very clean, normal flying type, but isn't one of the, like, starter area birds.
Yeah, it doesn't suck ass, you know? It's not like, you know, it's not like your regular Pidgeots or your, you know, your Staravia. Actually, I think Staraptor is pretty okay.
Staraptor was quite good, yeah. It got, like, just its access to close combat as well as, like, I think 125 base attack.
Pretty good, yeah.
And intimidates. That combo.
That's true. Actually, yeah, never mind. Staraptor was good. I'm just not trying to disparage Staraptor. I'm just like, the more I think about it.
Powerful Staraptor.
Oh, okay, look, Tranquil sucks. All right, or like, what does it evolve into? Is it Unpheasant? Unpheasant's bullshit. Okay, it's not good. It's really either your Route 1 bird is fucking cracked amazing, like Talonflame, or it sucks ass, like it's, you know, Pidgeot. But even Pidgeot got a Mega, so it's really just Unpheasant that sucks.
Yeah. Like, all the early birds have gotten, like, some form of...
Oh, Noctowl sucks, too, but it's better than Unpheasant.
I don't know. Generation 2, I don't like Generation 2. Fuck it.
Ooh.
I'll say it. I'll say it on a video.
Spicy opinion coming out of Aurora. Alright. Listen, I love Gen 2.
Speaking of things I do like, Cabral.
Yeah, Cabral, the Sword of Justice. He is so justified in being a steel fighting type that, you know, he is on this team. I don't really get the synergy, but hey, that Cabral is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's his fastest Pokemon. 108 is good enough to sweep. This thing can dual dance.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's good. It's access to Volt Switch, which is a bit funky, but you know, allows it to like switch around. Have fun.
Yeah, IDM did do quite well with it, to be honest.
It's a decent Pokemon, definitely not bad.
Yeah, for sure. I think as far as like tier 4 picks go, it's a pretty good bruiser. You know, it fills its niche quite well for being a tier 4, and you know, it's a good pickup. And I think that Skittles will hopefully make good use of it. I think he will end up relying on it a lot to cover sort of that lacking physical attack. Although, you know, between Braviary and Cabral, he has something to work with.
Yeah. But not a lot of it in the form of physical attack going on. Also, funny enough, Ferrothorn's stronger physically than Cabral.
I actually, can I straight up? I used to run, it was definitely a meme at the time, but...
What, Sword Stance?
Yes, I loved Sword Stance Ferrothorn. I think that shit's amazing. Sword Stance Gyro Ball kills like fucking 75% of OU in one shot. I mean...
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good Pokemon, honestly.
It's a fun set. It's not, you know, as good as just like running it regularly.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably, but it's fun.
It is fun. It is very fun. Jellicent is another really good tier 4. This is one of those more utility picks that, like, you know, you want your ghost so you can have like that fighting immunity, especially compared to like his top half, which is so fighting weak between Magnezone, Blissey, Ferrothorn. Even Cobalion and Audino is also fighting weak. So Jellicent is just sort of the answer, you know, really his only answer to that fighting spam, and it still gets screwed by Scrappy, which, you know, like Surfetched is one of the Pokemon he's gonna have to fight, so that's gonna be tough. But
yeah, Scrappy and a lot of fighting type Pokemon also get access to knockoff, which is also a problem.
Yep. But yeah, Jellicent is a good Pokemon. It can Will-O-Wisp, you know. Doesn't it get Strength Sap now? Am I wrong in saying that, or I don't know? I don't want to say that with authority, but it definitely does have like Will-O-Wisp, and it can like Hex and things. So, and it gets Recover.
It does. It does get Strength Sap. That's actually fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
That shit.
So Jellicent, it's a good, you know, it's a dumbass move, I know, but Jellicent it's a good pickup. I think that it will be able to hopefully fill that defensive anti-fighting niche. Well enough, and also, you know, it's not only like your sort of ghost anti-fighting, anti-normal, but it's also got that bulky water going on, so it can sort of eat up a lot of normal types, you know, that might threaten out other Pokemon.
This is the third bulky water that Skittles has on this team, between a Slowking, a Rakman, and a Jellicent.
That's true. I mean, you know, I guess he doesn't need another bulky water, but he sure does have one. Audino, his second Regenerator Pokemon, although this one is a Regenerator Pokemon that cannot take hits very well.
Yeah, Audino's not great.
Yeah.
It lacks like any kind of offensive pressure, so it gets set up on very easily. It doesn't have like any way of messing with the opponent all that much.
Yeah, Remedy really tried to make it work last season, but it's not a good Pokemon.
It just lacks sort of like the move pool to really like make use of what it wants to, and like even then, you know, 60 base attack, 60 base special attack. Like if it can hit a normal hit, then the opponent's just gonna Sword Stance and hit you twice as hard next turn.
Right. And then other Pokemon that are fun. Dusknoir. Hi Dusknoir. Dusclops is objectively better than this Pokemon in every way. I know it's a tier 4, so you can't really compare them necessarily, but man, Dusknoir, name a bigger downgrade. I'll wait.
Yeah, it's so funny. It feels like the old, you know, like Chansey just being like objectively better than Blissey is.
Yeah.
You know, just being outdone by your fucking baby.
Yeah. I mean, Blissey has seen like a resurgence at least, you know, as like a boots abuser. But man, Dusknoir just does not have anything going for it. It can hit okay, and its defense stats are great, but its HP is so god-awful that it's still squishy.
Imagine if they made a Pokemon with less HP. Did you think of any?
Trapinch.
No, actually, Trapinch is equal. Trapinch is 45.
Oh my god, you're right! It has the same base HP as Trapinch! Oh no, dude. At least Trapinch can run Ambulite! Ugh.
Yeah.
It's still, obviously, it's not as bulky because it's like 45 both defenses too, but...
A Pokemon that has less HP than Dusknoir and Trapinch is Mr. Mime.
Mr. Mime! It is quad resistant to fighting, so there's that.
It's still dying, though.
It is still dying. Does Mr. Mime even get any moves that use Technician?
That's a good fucking question. I've never really seen Technician.
Does Mr. Mime get like Quick Attack? It gets Fake Out.
Fucking Technician Fake Out, let's go.
That's crazy.
Let's run this shit by power. Let's see what we've got here. We've got Aerial Ace, Covet, Magical Leaf, Round, Shockwave, Thief, Icy Wind, Charge Beam, Confusion, Payback, Snore, Fake Out, Power Punch, Pounce, Star Power without any, like...
with no investments.
Infestation, Mud Slap. The only
so you could actually, like Icy Wind and Shockwave, I could kind of see.
Yeah, I was about to say that, especially against like Firebolt's team.
Well, you don't want to run Icy Wind against Firebolt's team. That's not even 100% accurate normally.
Well, I know, but like shit like Aerial Ace with adaptability, and then like I'm running the max 45 base attack.
Yeah, it's Mr. You know, I'm sure he could do something. I don't really know what he does. I guess he could probably set up screens. He could probably cleric a bit.
You could just run as like a refresh.
Holy mother of fuck! Like all of his Pokemon can get screens. That's really funny.
Yeah, just fucking Scarf this thing, give it Healing Words, just refresh one of your bulky Pokemon when it's down for the count.
That's true. It can teleport, so at least it can like. You can pretend you're not sacking it.
I was about to say, it's just, you know, it's dying before it ever leaves.
Yeah. I will also say another thing I'm a bit worried about in terms of this team is it's a very stall-focused team, so it's supposed to be about slowly, methodically wearing down the opponent's team while your team stays topped off on HP. And normally you can force that progression, or prefer to force that progression, by laying down hazards on their side and keeping hazards from staying up on your side. This draft can put up hazards pretty well using just Ferrothorn and Blissey, but it can only defog with Braviary. So anytime he doesn't want to deal with hazards, he's going to be removing his own, and that's assuming he A, brings Braviary, and B, wants to run defog on it instead of just like banded like attacks or something, you know?
Yeah, and even then, like if you're running defog and Braviary, you're usually also running it with boots, which means you're stuck with your base 80 speed, which means faster Pokemon are gonna probably hit it like probably hit it.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, Scarf Defog has been not like popular in OU, but it has its, you know, place, right, on some teams. But really, you're probably not going to want to invest some of your only resource in draft, especially in terms of this draft where you can't really hit things, right? You really want your Braviary. It's easily your best attacker. You want your Braviary to come in, you know, either full attack or full speed, right? Banded or Scarfed, and coming in and just killing things. You don't really want to have it defogging. So
yeah,
he's going to be playing, I think, maybe not at a disadvantage necessarily in the hazard game on like the general sort of scope of the field, because he's got, again, Ferrothorn and Blissey. But outside of that, I mean, he's going to be taking a lot of hazard damage. So he's either going to have to stack up on boots, or that progression is going to be working against him too. Yeah,
I do feel that we have seen a number of teams which sort of like lack in their own setup capabilities for hazards. And in those matches, it'll be Skittles that has the upper hand, especially because if you can force your opponent to defog, bring in Braviary to get the Defiant boost.
Yeah.
Spicy shit. Because defog does lower evasion.
That is true.
Which technically counts for Defiant.
Yep. Which is a kind of classic, you know, like switching in like Bisharp on a defogger is really, you know, advanced play 101, right? It's one of the first things that you learn is like, oh, that's a strat, you know?
Yeah.
So Braviary can definitely abuse that. Yeah. But
aside from that, kind of lacking item removal, but Ferrothorn has knockoff, which we're probably going to be seeing every single week. So it's not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
It's only 6 items per week to get rid of anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, I mean, I think that, you know, of all the drafts, this one is the one that feels like it lacks a bit of synergy. I know Skittles wants to just kind of have fun this season and sort of take it easy, and I totally understand that. I vibe with it. But I definitely worry about his ability to deal with just like hyper offense or really just forcing progression in the way that like a stall player or a stall team would have to, because stall is not brain dead, despite what you may think and believe. And trust me, I just literally right before recording this video, I played a fucking 166 turn game on the OU ladder versus stall. So this is coming from a fresh wound. Stall does require some brain cells to do right. You know, it's not like a free gimme win. You do have to acknowledge things that can beat you in terms of types or setup strats, or again, you know, even just countering your setups and your hazards and things. So I worry that Skittles might not be able to do enough strong counterplay to really make this stall wear down opposing teams. I just don't see it doing enough damage over time or stacking the field enough in his favor that it really results in like a win, you know?
Yeah. Another problem we're kind of running into is the walls are a bit lopsided on the special side.
Yeah.
Ferrothorn and Cobalion are kind of having to carry the physical sides on their own backs.
And they're both weak to fire and fighting.
Yeah. So, and they share weaknesses. And share weaknesses with quite a few of the other, like, quote-unquote walls as well.
Yeah. Please excuse my cat if you can hear him yelling in the background. Hey, bud. Sounds like he wants me to be done analyzing this draft. Don't you think, Aurora?
Yeah. Well, I think we are just about rounding up here, yeah.
Yeah. But, do you have any final thoughts on Skittles' team before we wrap up the video?
In general, sort of type matchup, fine. Has most bases covered aside from hazard removal. So, like, those bases are covered very well. Just sort of like the internal synergy and like the balancing between what hits the special side, what hits the physical side, could have been better, as well as less overlap between weaknesses between Pokemon that share roles.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Skittles. I hope that he can pull some stuff out this season, because I know that he has been showing very slow and steady improvement since the beginning of Double Dip. I will give him that. We were talking about this earlier, where like his record hasn't ever gotten worse, right? It really just kind of chugs along, getting slightly better. So I really do believe that he can find some like personal benchmark for success this season. But as far as, keeping it 100, as far as this being a team that can clinch playoffs or take it to grands, I just don't think I can see it happening.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely an uphill battle, and I feel, depending on how the season goes, like matchup to matchup, it might have some valuable lessons in store for Skittles that hopefully he can keep in mind, and when we come around next season, if he wants to join again, I look forward to, every step. I love seeing people take steps forward, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And you can never count anyone out. I know I'm being particularly harsh with this draft, but I've seen Skittles do it, man. He's randomly clinched good wins. He's beaten me before, so shoot. Really anything can happen. So I love Skittles. I hope that he performs well. I just think it's really, like you said, it's going to be an uphill battle with a draft like this to find success in, especially this division with so many like threatening drafts and players.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stacked players and players that have really proven themselves in the last couple seasons, as well as newcomers where we don't know where they fit in. They could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I honestly, it's really hard to say, right? Like Cabral and Nihlus both feel to me like kind of wild cards, so it's a wonder if like can Skittles maybe pull some shit on one of them and just find himself in that favorable position, or is he going to, for the first time, see kind of a backslide in his performance? I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, and wait and see we will, because that's going to be it for now, I believe.
We are at the end of the draft analysis. Woohoo! It was only 2 hours and 40 minutes. So,
hey, that's still 20 minutes faster than the other crew.
Yeah, Cabral, make sure to let them know that they can grab some popcorn and a nice bubbly beverage before they sit down and listen to this video.
I'm sure people will see the length themselves.
Yeah, well, they can. If you can make it through 5 hours of analysis content, then congratulations, you are strong-willed and pure of heart.
And have a lot of free time.
My God, and have a lot of free time. Or maybe you're allowed to listen to podcasts at work or something. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We're really looking forward to getting on the road with Double Dip Draft Season 5. It's going to be, I think, the craziest season yet. I think it's shaping up to be some of the highest stakes, most exciting stuff that we've yet to see. And I'm excited to keep iterating, and hopefully your boy can be the first double winner of Double Dip Draft. That's really the storyline this season, is who's going to get their first repeat win, or are we going to see yet another, like a 5th addition to the pantheon of Double Dip winners? I don't know.
We've never had a repeat winner before, so it'll be very interesting to see. Either way, best of luck to everybody.
Best of luck to everybody. Thank you so much. As always, I am Spood with the Southtown Sandslashers.
And I've been Aurora with the Hoonsbrook Hunters.
And we really appreciate you guys sitting down and spending the last almost 3 hours with us. Please make sure to check out the Armor Division draft analysis if you want to see what the pundits think about our drafts. And maybe we'll be on the receiving end of some of the tongue lashings we gave out today. So who knows? We'll see. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely night. Peace out.
Bye-bye.